Okay, so we're live. Welcome everybody to another session of Adventures in Loxos. I'm getting into the official voice, as y'all can tell. You know, this is me being official. You know, yay!
That.
Yeah, ooh, crickets. So before we get started, I want to address the audience directly. We actually are recording a session right now, but we have another session that has been recorded that I have not posted yet. So you guys are probably going to get two sessions posted. I've had a lot going on and I'm finding it hard to find the motivation to even mess with my channel right now, but I plan on getting back on track with that and taking care of it. So bear with me, and yeah, and I'll try and get more game stuff on Lord Pod Gaming, more than just my D&D sessions. But as it stands right now, it's just hard finding the time and the motivation with everything going on. With that said, let me introduce our cast of characters here. We have AGTX, the Dragons. And he will be playing Uquill, our human slayer / dragon shaman.
Yes, everybody, he needs medical attention.
And under him, we have Kassid69, who will be...
Ayo. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm just trying to do your introduction. You can interrupt me if you want. You know, why don't you explain who you... No, okay.
Please, teacher.
No, she will be playing Agaragis, the androgynous myconid Pion Mender, which, if you don't know what a myconid is, it's basically a 4 foot, maybe 5 foot. I don't know. I can never remember how tall you are.
I don't
An
think.
atrocity.
I think it's 4.
Yeah, a 4 foot mushroom person. It's basically just like lizard folk. These are mushroom folk, basically. Living fungi. Yep. Agaragis tried to go to the bar one time, and they said, nope, we don't serve your kind here. And Agaragis said, why not? I'm a fun guy.
Nice.
Oh, I thought I was going to get the dun-dun-dun. Anyways. So...
Shut the fuck down.
Yeah. And a Pion Mender is basically like an all-around utility character. They can heal, they can buff. Kind of like a cleric, only without all the devout worship.
I was gonna say without all the cool stuff, but yeah, that would too.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's more bioorganic ability as opposed to I pray, and then you know, the blessings come down as the prayers go up type of thing, you know. Underneath Kassid, we have Icy Hot _2305, and he will be playing the half drow deep druid Zoltan Heisenberg. And a deep druid is basically kind of our own little homebrew type of druid. Instead of being like a forest druid, you know, it's not your mama's druid, you know. These druids come from like underground, deep in caves and mountains and things. They're in tune with nature in a different way. And he's basically the antithesis of a typical druid. And he doesn't really act like a hippie a whole lot. He's more a child. No. He's more of a child. Then under him we have Ness, who will be playing our half wood elf bard / Paladin Saint of Corlon Lorethian. And the thing about Android Farisen, that's the name of the character, by the way, Android Farisen. Thing about Android here, Lord Android Farisen, is Android isn't playing a paladin, a paladin as like a regular class. We're actually adapting him from the Unearthed Arcana 3.5 book, where they make paladins a prestige class. Basically, you don't level up as many things. You don't level up nearly as much, but it takes away all all killer, no filler. Basically, is what it does. I guess is a good way
Pretty
of
much.
yeah, a good way of explaining
You
that.
get the bread and butter of the paladin, but you don't get it as like refined. You know, it's like more like an archetype in 5e than it is like a full-fledged class, I guess.
Yeah, basically, all killer, no filler. And I am Lord Pog, your humble DM. May our labors please you. And we're gonna cut to the intro now, everybody. Doodaloo, 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 doodaloo.
Wow, wasn't that a great intro?
All right, well.
I love this soundboard.
Yeah, I can tell you're gonna be playing with that all night.
Yeah,
Yep.
you just found it, huh?
Yeah, I did. I
You're
remember
lucky I
it.
don't have my nitro active, or I'd be fucking playing my shit.
Can you?
That's what we're gonna make an investment in. Right? We're gonna buy Nitro.
It's like when Icy first discovered the word bones, like earning them
Yeah.
bones.
Give me my bone.
And like all night he was saying, you know, give me 20 bones. You gotta earn them bones. That's what the soundboard is like for him. It's his new bones, you know. It's like he just learned a new word. You know? Icy hot, everybody.
Can't tie my shoes, but I can fuck your bitch.
Nice.
Oh, that's fucking awesome.
I think
Brilliant.
maybe for the sake of like the what do you call it? For the channel and just not being like completely bumped from YouTube and the algorithm, maybe we take it easy on some of that.
I was sweating for how much I left.
Maybe not so much in quick succession.
Yeah, you know, just you know. So let's get started, everybody. As a brief recap of where we left off, you all, the beginning of last session began with you guys at the end of the first day of the Honored Jingsu, the festival that takes place every 30 years on the continent of Pengshun, where all the tribes, all the shogunates come together, all the mercenary groups come together in the land of the Dragoon and their shogunate to celebrate this festival every 30 years. That basically during this time, it's a time of peace. It's a 3-day long festival, and during that time no bloodshed can happen, meaning no murder, like no death, no wars, no blah blah blah. They kind of look out the other way with drunken brawling and things like that, as long as people don't die. Like nobody dies with intent. So the festival is held in the Dragoon below shogunate lands known as Longzi Judo, and they have hosted this Jingzhu every year since its first foundings. During this time, this year, you guys Uquil has been chosen because he is like a self-fulfilling prophecy for the Dragoon, who are basically just Dragonborn, but they're different. He has been chosen to be their representative during the Honored Jingzhou. It's like a tournament. So we're at the last day, or not the last day, but the end of the first day of the Jingzhou, and we're at this. You guys began the session at this banquet that is held for all the honored chosen who are competing in the tournament, and a lot of high-ranking officials of the Dragoon Court. During this banquet, I guess you guys thought it was a good idea to insult and there's no other real way of saying it but like this. You guys thought it would be a good idea to insult the Shogun of the Dragoon.
I would argue that we were standing up for civil liberties.
I second this motion.
Well, sure. To be fair, the Shogun, the Shogun Ka Shin, he acts like a petulant child. That is for sure. He is massive. He's very, I mean, his persona is very aggressive. Like, you can look at him and know why he's the Shogun, you know? He he looks like he's physically capable of, you know, messing you up should he want to. But his attitude is that of maybe a spoiled child. And that's exactly what he was doing at the banquet. You know, once he shows up, then nobody can eat until he eats, and he was sitting there making everybody wait forever because he was just flexing his ability to do this. And eventually Uquil got sick of it and let him know he was sick of it. And then Agaragis, who has no concept of etiquette, I guess, never stopped eating in the first place. I mean, Agaragis just kept on eating. I think Agaragis out of the entire group is probably the only one who didn't realize just how insulting they were being.
What was even going on?
Yeah, they were just like, I'm gonna eat because there's food. I'm hungry, ha ha ha. And then Zoltan just, you know, he was getting irritated like like Uquil was, so they just kind of basically tagged up like the Fabulous Freebirds and went New Day on him. And the one that surprises me the most is Android, who's usually the diplomat of the group, who usually tries to smooth over the crazy things that the Inglorious Few are known for doing from time to time. And like Android just said, he saw this as civil injustice. This, you know, Ka Shin was not.
Bitch.
Yeah, well, basically. Yeah, so Android chose to say nothing, and in fact, when Ka Shin began to speak, Android was the first one to kind of speak up and let it be known, nah, man, like, you're not acting right. And then Uquil let him know real quick, no, you know what I mean? You can flex all you want, but, you know. Uquil, I would think, is pretty fully aware of how important he is to these people, too. And, yeah, so Uquil is also kind of, in a weird sort of way, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I kind of saw it like this. In a weird sort of way, Ka Shin was flexing his importance, and Uquil began to flex his importance, and that kind of put them both at an impasse, right?
Basically. To a degree.
Yeah, because Uquil also has the blessing of the shaman, the high shaman of the Dragoon, Mazaru, who has basically elected Uquil as their chosen one. And Mazaru, the High Shaman, is just as important as the Shogun in these people's economy. You know, one handles military might, one handles their spiritual needs. And so, because she's backing Uquill, that makes Uquill pretty important, even though he's only a human. And so, there was kind of like that understanding, I think, that happened there between those two, you know? Like, Kara Shin just couldn't instantly, like, order Uquill to be executed because even he knows that Uquill is important, and I think Uquill knows that he knows he's important. Is that, would that be a fair, a statement to make as far as Uquill's thinking on that?
He knows.
He knows.
I mean, kind
I don't know
of.
if you know.
Yeah. Kind of. Uquill was just more of like, you know, still like, why you being a bitch? You ain't gotta be a bitch.
Yeah. And Uquill's just being Uquill, also.
Yeah,
Yes.
like he's gonna, regardless of whether it's important, like, I don't think he saw it more of like he thought he was important so he could do that. It was just more of this dude's being all of a fucking douche pickle, and Uquill didn't like it. And
Right.
he's willing to back it up, if that makes sense.
Well, so in the end of so by the end of the whole conflict, Kara Shin ends up just leaving the banquet. He's so pissed. And the banquet finishes, and through that whole time too, you guys have been working with what's his name? Lao Di, who is basically like one of the country folk, but he's also a detective. And he's been helping you guys try to figure out who's got an assassination plot against Mazaru, the High Shaman. The biggest issue with that is, should Mazaru be murdered and blood be spilled during the Jingzhu will forever will be no more. That is the stipulation. Excuse me. The thing is because the Dragoon have always chosen and took it up as their mantle to host the Jingzhu every year and host all these different cultures and races and peoples on their land. If any Dragoon is murdered during the Jingzhu, they will cancel the Jingzhu forever. They will never host another one. If anybody else dies, let's say like a human from a different shogun or whatever dies, the Dragoon have agreed to help. That's automatic execution for one, and it doesn't matter who you are. You can be a king or a street sweeper. Your punishment is instant death. But the Jingzhu will still be held. However, if it is a Dragoon, they're done. And they will wage war against whoever was involved as well. So you guys are trying to stop a pretty important plot, a nefarious plot, no less. And Lao Di has been assisting you in doing this. His shaman, the shaman who he goes to see out there in his little country town, Meow Meow, she's the one that made him aware of the plot. And so he came here and made you guys aware of the plot because you guys met Meow Meow. Meow Meow is like actually the first one who noticed how special Uquill was. And then the ancestors called to him. And so she sent him to meet Mazaru. Come to find out, Mazaru doesn't know about this plot. At least, Android, that's what you suspect, correct?
That Mazaru, you said?
Yeah, Mazaru doesn't know about the plot against her life.
Yeah, that's what Android suspects, correct.
And Lao Di isn't any help either because he doesn't know if Mao Mao had ever told Mazaru. So, that's where you guys are headed right now. You, Android, Lao Di, and Zoltan, who Zoltan has just recently bought the freedom of his girlfriend, Chumi. And that basically was kind of a tense little situation, but in the end, Android did come to an understanding with the retainer, Sodukai, who, or Kotokai, not Sodukai, but Kotokai, and they will be going into business with one another eventually. But, Android, you've got a mark on you that guarantees that you will not screw him over. It's like a risk factor, you know what I mean? But you've got a month to get back and set this up with Sebastian, the liaison at House Verizon, all the way back in White Sword, or basically whatever that mark is going to do, it's going to take your whole arm. So you've got a month to get this done now. Quill found himself getting ambushed in his sleep and having some kind of weird glow worm inserted into his belly button, and now he's he was trapped in a nightmare that he's managed to wake up from that has him kind of wondering, well, what the heck is going on with this? Oftentimes, like dreams and nightmares do, it was real abstract and vague on its messaging, but it might have been calling to something deeper, maybe some deeper thought that he needs to work out. You attempted to read the Pantheon for answers, and the only answer it gave you was a little bit about the history of the god of one of the gods of your country. Valkar, the duality. He is both law and chaos, both hate and love, you know. And you also learned that he is the father of Hyronius and Hextor, which is odd, considering that they're worshipped in an entirely different on an entirely different continent, you know? So, there was that. Agaragis, you were tasked with spying on the Shogun, Kara Shin, because Android and Lao Di has no love for the Shogun, or the Shogunate, as it's being run right now anyways. He has the utmost respect for Mazaru, but not Kara Shin. He says that he overtaxes the people, goods and services have gone up. Oftentimes they go into these fruitless wars that only benefit, you know, him and his little circle monetarily, but it does nothing to help the people as a whole. He's just not a good leader. He's corrupt, he lies, and he cheats. Basically, if you believe Lao Di, you know, this is Lao Di's opinion. But Kara Shin hasn't done much to impress you guys either. So you guys suspect he might be behind this assassination attempt, so you guys tasked Agaragis to go spy on him, which is hilarious. Because as we all know, Agaragis is so great with details. So Agaragis, you went and you spied on Kara Shin, and what you found in his own private chambers, you saw him sitting there meditating with a spectral creature walking around him, speaking with him. And you recognized him because it's the same person that you saw, that you tried to follow previously when you and Zoltan first noticed them. The one that passed through the wall. The dragoon who's heavily cloaked with only its tail coming out from underneath of it, and on the tips of its tail are like little fine hairs, like whiskers, that look like those silver cords, just wisps. You know, it just looks like fine hair on the end of his tail, but it almost, those wisps almost move as if they have a mind of their own. And Kara Shin spoke with him, saying, you know, well, he doesn't like you guys, and he doesn't like the fact that Mazaru is backing you guys, and whoever this person is promised him that in due time, Mazaru will lose power and Kara Shin will be the ultimate power. And so much so that not even the ancestors, who are the dragons, basically, these hidden dragons that all the dragoons swear up and down exist and live in their land, but nobody knows where they are. And the only time anybody's gotten any proof that they exist is when the ancestors call, because you guys heard them call at least. But beyond that, you have no proof, because you guys have never even seen a dragon. Not really, except the one time, but we're not going to go that far back. The point being is, yeah, we're not going to get lost in that. The point being is that, according to you guys, dragons don't exist in that form anymore. They're no longer these massive beasts with wings and stuff, you know, they, something happened, and so they don't exist. But, with that said, though, supposedly there are 4 of them, and they are known as the ancestors, the progenitors of the race of Dragoon. Because Dragoon, again, are not like Dragonborn. Dragoon can be born with wings, for instance, and things like that. While you guys have met Dragonborn before, and you know that they're basically just humanoid dragon folk. But the Dragoon are different. They're slender, they're not as beefy, more magically inclined, except for guys like Kara Shin and Yin and Yang, who are just odd anyways, but that's just because they come from a bloodline of pure magic.
Mm-hmm.
With that
That's
said,
right.
yeah, that's right. With that said, we're actually, so Agaragis, in case you forgot, that's what you witnessed happen. You know, you watched as the figures told Kara Shin that eventually not even the ancestors will be able to question his might, and that Mazaru eventually will get taken care of. And you guys will, and you guys will get taken care of as well. And then it left him, and he went to lay down and went to sleep. And he's sleeping in his room now, and you're just hanging out on the stairway. We're actually going to jump over to you, Quill, first, though, before we pick back up with you, Agaragis.
Okie dokie.
Well, I hope you're okay with that. I mean,
Yeah, that's fine.
when I made this idea, I said to myself, boy, I sure hope Agaragis is okay with this, because, man, that's...
Damn.
I just say that I just do that to get a rise out of you. Because you got such a good sense of humor, you know.
I try.
But yeah, we're gonna pick up with you, Quill. You, Quill, you came up out of that dream, and you sat there for a while, and you read the Pantheon, and now we find you sitting on the edge of your bed, just kind of trying to shake the previous night's nightmare off. You know, you're trying to shake it off. While you're doing that, you notice approaching you the monk woman who you've from the Golden Lotus Monastery you've come to I don't know if I want to say you've come to respect, but
Understand?
Yeah. I guess that's a better way of putting it. Yeah, you've come to understand her better, you know? When she first met you, she seemed real caustic, but over time, she's opened up to you more. She's opened up to you without opening up to you, I guess. You know what I mean? Like, you still don't know, like, her favorite color. But you know, you at least understand her attitude. You know what I mean? Why she is the way she is. She's this human woman from from the Golden Lotus Monastery. You know, she's got her long dark hair, and she's not dressed up in any of her ceremonial robes, as is not the custom of the honored chosen of the Jingzhu. You know, she's just wearing her cloth clothing that you all are supposed to wear. And she comes and she approaches you, and she looks you over somewhat concerned, and she says, "Did you have a rough night?"
Yuko just looks at her like, not exactly hiding that there's something amiss, but he doesn't really elaborate. He's like, nice way of putting it.
When Uquil's looking at her, is he having trouble not picturing her naked, like as he did in his dream when he was fighting her?
I mean, kind of, but it's more of like, that's not bugging him as much as like he's not sure if what happened was real either way, so he's still kind of lost, if that makes sense.
Right. She looks at you for a moment and she says, "Why are you looking at me so strangely?"
Yes, I had a dream where we faced off. Yeah, that's it.
She raises an eyebrow. She raises like a single eyebrow and sits down next to you, and she says, "Did I win? Is that what made this such a hard dream for you?"
We never got that far. Things were a lot different than what they would be if we actually fought.
She says, "I see." She says, "I myself, at times when I have dreams like that, and I try to strike something and I know it should break, it is almost like I am striking it with the arm of a stick, like a mere twig, with the strength of an infant. Almost as if I'm drowning in water. But I know how to fight water, so it makes no sense to me." And she looks at you. She says, "You understand what I'm saying?"
Maybe. Yeah, it was just. He's like, I get it, but he's like, I don't. It's not quite that, but yeah. He's like, it was just nothing about it was right.
She says, "Then how come you're still having, if you knew it was a dream, how come you're still having trouble looking at me?"
He's like, your attire was much different. Let me put it that way.
She says, "But just look at me."
He like gingerly looks at her. You know what I mean? Like, do I have?
As you gingerly go to look at her, you look at her, and what you see there is no longer her anymore. She is gone. What you see now sitting next to you is what looks like to be, I guess the best way you could describe it is like a tiefling, maybe, only made out of solid jade.
Oh my god, he's still in the dream.
And it looks at you as you look at it, and when he looks at you, he just says, It says, "Don't be afraid, you Quill. I need you to roll a roll me a will save. Yeah, roll me a will save." And I know, for the record, I know that you are immune to magically mind-altering effects. Correct? I believe your Slayer, it's either your Slayer or your Dragon Shaman makes you immune to, like, mind-altering effects of magical ability. If I'm not mistaken. Like, you're immune to sleep and things like that, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, if I fail, I get to try again next round. You know, I get another shot at it, basically.
Well, the reason I'm even bringing it up is because it's not magical, what you're experiencing. This is completely organic. Because I'm the DM and I know plot holes. Ha ha ha! You're in danger!
It doesn't say that it's magical. It just says removable effects: blinded, confused, dazzled, deafened, exhausted, fascinated, fatigued, nauseated, paralyzed, sickened, and all fear effects. Shaken, frightened, panicked, coward.
Okay, but those are mind-altering effects, right? So, like, are you, when it says, like, fatigue, for instance, is it's, because fatigue isn't mind, it's fortitude. So is it saying you can't become tired at all, or can you not become fatigued of the mind? Like, you know, it can't magically make you fatigued, but it can. Interesting. We'll have to look deeper into that later. Well, it's a good thing we're not doing any of that right now. Okay. So, no, that's good. That's a good roll. So
yeah, don't get much better than that.
Yeah. So, what this was gonna do was to see, and I'm gonna tell you right now, this was gonna see if this made you like sick in some way, shape, or form, right? So you managed to fight that off of the mind, but it doesn't stop you from waking up. And you are now in the waking world, and you are raising up out of your bed, just pouring sweat, like, you know, because you realize you were still in the dream. Only this time in the dream, like, while the last time it seemed like, you know, you were able to quite physically see this is not right. This felt real. You know what I mean? And that's what's messed you up a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, holy crap. You know, whatever's doing this to you can make you think you're awake, should it so choose to. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, the ability to wake up really isn't yours. What you're doing is you're like stuck in your own liminal space of the mind. But you do actually wake up, and you know you're awake for this brief moment because you are just roaring in bloody terror, just covered in sweat. And you see everybody standing around you, actually. You see a lot of the honored chosen standing around you. There is Zanye, she's there. Your buddy, the Feng Zhang, Kung Po, he's standing there. I mean, they're all standing there around you. Not all of them don't look as panicked, but Zanye and Kung Po and the Daji, the dog folk man, Kobe, they're standing around you, and they've actually got what looks like dragoon physicians with them as well. And you're like trying to raise up out of bed, and you can just vaguely hear them saying something about restrain him, keep him down, or, you know, or he'll hurt himself in there. You know, Kung Po puts all his weight back down onto you to try and hold you down, and you're just kind of thrashing around and Zanier's like, this isn't right. And they're like, oh, did you find him like this? And she said, yes, we all rose for today, and we found him like this, thrashing in his bed, sweating. And then you slowly feel yourself go back into unconsciousness. Agaragus. Agaragus.
F.
Agaragus. So we're gonna rewind a little bit and go back to the night of the banquet and the ending of the first night of the Jingzhou. Since it is now apparent that Yuquil has moved to the next day. Like I said, we left you on that stairway, and to remind you, you went that the way this room is set up, the way these personal chamber, the personal chamber of the Shogun is set up, is that stairway going up to his room is like a branch on a tree. You know, it's not actually attached to the Forgotten Palace at all. The base of it is, and then it branches off as if the palace in of itself is like a mighty oak with its branch of stairs. And then you have that circular chambered room out there just sitting upon this branch of this stairway like the bud of a flower, you know? And you manage to climb up the stairs after some work. And we talked about this. Always remember to check your items and make sure that you don't have any items that can help you with some of these difficult skills and things. But you remember you have your mood ring and you're using it right now to help you with your dexterity. So you could climb the stairs more deftly. So now, yeah, because you slid down them and you've
I was struggling.
yeah. But you popped your mood ring and now you're good, you know. And just remember, and don't ever be afraid to ask questions too. Like you're like looking at it and you're like, well, what's bear's endurance or what's bull strength or whatever, you know what I mean? I'll explain it, you know. There is no wrong questions in D&D. That's how,
Okay.
that's how you know. That's how you know what you can do. And the only wrong thing you can do is listen to Dragons when he says things like that.
Wow! That's incorrect.
That is incorrect. No.
There is wrong questions. They're just, you have to be very asinine to ask them in the first place.
Yeah, you would have to be really stupid to ask some of these questions. Correct. Yeah, you know.
When was the War of 1812?
All right, so I don't want to go off on a tangent, but so when we first started playing D&D like years ago, right? My brother, not Android, but our shared mutual brother, he
As opposed to your not sure, bro?
the Bull. I'll just call him the Bull because I don't know what else his tagline would be. But the Bull,
It was always Hydro or
Hydro.
Hydronus.
Yeah. Hydronus. So Hydronus was our forever DM for like the longest time, and he ran so many campaigns. And that dude, he could run a group of like 12 to 13 players, you know, like no problem. Like it never even phased him how well he could actually rein people in. But with that many players, you're always going to have those one players who just are out of pocket all the time with everything they do. So we had this one player, and he decided one time when we all got captured, and we're not high level players, but so we were, capturable. We get captured, we're sitting there, the jailer's talking to us, he's this guard, he's talking to us or whatever, and this player just decides to say, well, to show him, I stick my dingling between the bars and I wag it at him. I'm like, and Hydronus doesn't even lose a step. He doesn't stop, doesn't laugh, doesn't let it throw him off at all. He just, without losing a step, he says, the guard pulls out his sword and chops it off.
Nice.
He's like, don't I get a reflex? And he goes, no, you don't. He goes, it's time you learn that actions have consequence in this game. You know, and it's like, yeah, so there is wrong things, but I mean, if you have a certain level of maturity, there is no real wrong question, right? And if your group is just one of those groups where everybody's out of pocket, your DM's out of pocket, you guys just have these zany adventures, that's fine too, you know? But, I mean, yeah, there you go. There you have it. So, Agaragus, what you are looking at now is you have Kara Shin, he's over there, fast asleep now. Whoever that figure is seems to have phased out of the wall and disappeared again. Phased through a wall and disappeared again, leaving just that circular room. So what would I remember the last question you asked before we stopped was, is there anything on the ground I can steal? So let me on the ground is an ornate rug that is so big you could use it as a blanket. In fact, if somebody were so inclined, they could roll you up in it and maybe suffocate you. That, you know, but it's a normal sized rug. You're just kind of a tiny little person. There is this rug, but it is ornate. It does look fancy. There is a tea set over there that looks like it is made out of like fine porcelain with gold inlay in it, you know, very ornate and decorative. On the walls there are some tapestries and things, and there are a few chests and a table that looks like it has a map on it or some kind of paper of some sort on it, and a little bookshelf. But there are like 3 unopened chests just kind of hanging out. But anything loose, that's what's loose. Bookshelf, books, tapestries, rug, tea set, table with what looks like a map that you can tell. Anyways, it looks like it's got some kind of map on it, but I mean, it's pretty high up and you can only make out just so much of it.
Can I try to go scope out the map and do it like stealthily, hopefully?
Stealthily, hopefully? Yes, you may.
I'm gonna try.
Alright, roll me a move silent.
Oh no.
Oh, no. Well, remember, you've got, I believe, and you might check your character sheet, but I believe right now you do have your mood ring going. So,
Yeah.
you should have, like a plus something to your dexterity right now, and I believe move silently is a dexterous feat, so that will add a bonus to your, oh no, it's to your strength. So, again, if you wanted to, right, you could switch your mood ring from bull strength to cat's grace, and that'll take away the +4 to your strength, but add a +4 to your dex. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how your equipment's gonna work. You know what I mean? Like, that's how that mood ring works. It will instantly change your, you know, you're gonna, depending on what you're doing, you're gonna want to think about, well, what does that require? Does that require my strength, my dex, my intelligence, my wisdom, my charisma? And then just look at your different deals and say to yourself, okay, well, I'm gonna switch from this to this, you know? Kind of like what Quill does when he goes Super Saiyan.
Okay, yeah.
So, you could do that if you want to.
I think that's gonna be a good idea.
Alrighty. So that puts that temporary deal from 4 to 0, and now your dex has a temporary increase of +4, which makes your dexterity an 18 right now. That is not bad. Actually, that is a pretty high dex.
Nice. Oh yeah, what was I supposed to roll?
Move silently.
Is that in skills?
That will be in skills, yeah.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, see, you are like a field mouse in high grass, you know.
Nice.
You know, only the most keenest of eye would see you as you crawl into these private chambers. And again, it he doesn't have like an actual doorway. It's just an arched opening, you know, in a round room with arched windows here and there for air. So you go and you sneak in there, and what was it you were wanting to look at?
The map.
The map. So
Or it looks like a map.
yeah. So you go over there, and it is in fact a map. I mean, you know, you could see that pretty well enough. And you know, 4 foot is not so short that this dude's not such a giant that you gotta climb to get, you know what I mean? It's just
Right.
It just requires a little bit of effort, you know, but that's like saying, you know, my daughter can't reach the table, you know what I mean? You get to looking at the map, and you realize that well, let's see. Look at your knowledge in your skills. There's a section of skills, and it's just all kinds of different knowledges. What knowledges do you actually have there?
Would it have like where like the 14 is and stuff?
What you'll do is you'll go into your skills, and it'll say stuff like knowledge of religion, knowledge of geography, knowledge of history. It'll be in alphabetical order. So, like, you know, you just basically go to the K's and then just look at whatever knowledges you actually have as skills. I don't know if on your character sheet the skills you have are checkmarked and the ones you don't aren't, or if it's the other way around. The ones you don't have aren't checkmarked and the ones you do. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think normally if you have the skill, it should be... I don't know.
The first box?
Um,
Because it looks like I have 2. No, looking at that now. It looks like I only have 1 knowledge, and that's nature.
is the box checkmarked or is it not checkmarked? Like, is it a green? Does it have a green check mark next to it, or is it?
No,
is
it does not.
Okay, so anything not check marked, you actually can take as a skill. You can put skill points in. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Everything else you'd have to learn, or what they call cross-class skills, and that's a whole other thing. We can figure that out later when you go to put skill points in, right? But you do have knowledge of what?
Nature.
Do you have knowledge of geography?
No.
So the only one that you don't have checkmarked is knowledge of nature. All the other
snap.
knowledges are checkboxed, or what?
Okay. Knowledge, geography, history, local, and nature are all unchecked.
Okay, so in geography, So go ahead and roll me a knowledge of geography. Okay, 17. That's not bad. That's actually pretty freaking good. Considering you have put no skill points in it whatsoever. From what I can tell of your roll there. Huh? Hey, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. As a pure roll, just pure rolling, that's not bad. So you get to looking that over, and you, having come from the underworld and having dealt with warrior races that live in the depths of the planet, you know battle maps when you see them, the Myconids are not a warrior race or a warrior people per se, but you do have warriors even within your own ranks, because you've had to defend against Drow and Desmodu and things of that nature. So you recognize what a battle map looks like, and you realize that this is a campaign map. Several places what looks like several places have been marked as if Kara Shin is kind of making like what you would say a wish list. Places he plans to attack or invade. And the more you get to looking at it, Agaragis, you come to realize that this dude is like one part ambitious and insane at the same time, like the ambition he has for what he wants to conquer is great. Ambition, you've dealt with it, you've dealt with enough Drow, you know how they can be, but it's also just complete insanity what he's planning here. What it looks like he's planning on, just from what you can guess, it looks like he's planning on conquering all the shogunates in one fell swoop. But he's, as crazy as he is, there is some tactic. There is a lot of tactical knowledge here. I'll let you roll an intelligence to see if you can pick up on what his tactics are, what he's thinking in that sense, unless you have a knowledge of what'd you say, knowledge of
is it the stuff that is checked?
It'll be the stuff that isn't checked, I think, with you.
Okay. Then it's geography, history, local, and nature.
Okay, so you wouldn't have any engineering or dungeon or anything like that. So you have no. Okay, so with that said, so yeah, you could just roll an intelligence to see if you can understand what his tactical prowess actually is. But you can tell he's got some tactics here. He's not just saying, we're gonna win, and trying to just run in just full tilt. Even though that's kind of what this looks like, that he's got some kind of plan here. You're just not entirely sure what it is.
Right. Oh.
Wow, that's a pretty good pure roll too for
Is it?
It's not terrible. It's not terrible considering you have no modifiers in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't do too terrible actually. However, I'm not gonna say that you now understand the art of war. You're suddenly Machiavelli or anything. You know what I mean?
Darn it.
what you can tell of it, what you can discern of it, you know, is that he's actually got a plan. You know, he's not just gonna like try to bull rush it or risk it, as it were, you know. There is a plan here, and it looks like he's got something going on. One other thing that you can tell for sure is that if he's going to pull this off, though, he's got some kind of ace in the hole. You're just not entirely sure what that is.
Can I try to steal the map?
Sure, roll me a sleight of hand.
Would that be in skills?
Yep. So you begin to roll up the map, and it crinkles in such a way, it makes such a noise that as you're doing that, you hear him, he's over there sleeping, then all of a sudden you hear him go, what is that? What? Go ahead and roll a hide.
Okay. Noise.
So you can't be quiet to save your life, but you can hide like no other. Yeah. So you, he's like, what is that? And you just grab the map and kind of shove it into your folds, just kind of, you know. In fact, like, we'll say you produce one of your bottles and shove it down in one of the bottles and just cap it off and throw it into you real quick, and then you quickly open up a chest and just kind of jump in there and close the top. You hear him just kind of, what is that? You kind of hear him stir around for a minute. You can hear the creaking of the bed as he sits up, and but because you're down in this chest, you can't see him, but you can, you know, hear him just sitting there on the edge of his bed, creaking the bed a little bit. He's like, must have been the wind. And then you hear him lay back down and roll over, and you listen as his breath begins to soften again, and you wait till you can hear the breathing of somebody who's gone back to sleep. You know, I don't know if you can hear that, but that's what you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, the rhythmic patterns of breathing, you know? And now you're down in this chest, and you realize you're laying on top of some items of some sort that you've been deathly still up until now, but you realize now to get up out of this chest, you're going to have to shift around, and it may cause you some noise. Plus, you're not entirely sure what it is you're on top of.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think I've got all I need. I'm pretty happy with the map. Unless there's like a coin purse or something out in the open.
He's gonna risk it all for the coin purse.
You gotta risk it for the biscuit, baby. Okay, so go ahead and roll me another move silently to see if you can't get yourself up out of this chest silently without shifting too much of its contents around in there.
Whoa.
Alright. Wouldn't it have been jacked up if one of the chests had been a mimic? And she just jumps right into a mimic's mouth. It's like, blah, blah,
Bro, I'd die crying. I would just be hysterically laughing right now.
I would be sad.
He's like, Kara Shen's like, what's going on? Ted, are you making noise? No, boss. We're good. All right. No. No, you open up the chest very slowly and let light in there, and as you look around you can see that there are articles of clothing down in here. You know, too big for you, but big enough to fit him, you know. Fancy dress shirts and pants and stuff. Things that, you know, he may wear on special occasion or this and that. You know what I mean? You do see, though, down in there, roll me a spot, actually. We're going to do that.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Fine then. Fine then. Be that way.
I guess. 11.
Alright, so you actually see nothing. And but the clothing. As you crawl your way up out of this chest now. And
Okie dokie.
and roll me one more move silent.
Oh, what?
I'm not rolling to see if... Yeah, I wasn't rolling to see if you got out of the chest quietly. You managed to get the hood open and up and out of it quietly. You know what I'm saying? And I'm still gonna, you know... What I was rolling really to see is if you were of the frame of mind to not let the hood of the chest go and let it slap back down and make more noise.
Oh.
Which you fail.
What? I don't got to, though.
No, you don't have to, but I feel like this is right on track with the Garrigus. So...
Should have just left.
Yeah. So you get out of the chest and you're feeling pretty good about that, and then it just goes... Clap! Right back down. Slap! And you hear him go, what's that again? And...
What are we playing? Fucking Solid Snake fucking revenge tour here?
Yeah.
What the hell?
What? Yeah, what?
What was that?
Yeah. He's like, he sits up and he's like rubbing his eyes real hard. Garrigus, you just run out the door at this point. No time to try and get back into that chest, right? You just run right up out the door and you come to those steps that are pretty high up for you. Go ahead and roll me a tumble. Yep, basically that's well, I'll tell you what, Garrigus.
Yeah.
So I heard your GIF, and I look at it, and I say to myself, well, yeah, what do you want to do about them stairs? You want to try and slide down them? You want to try and see if you can't turn into a ball of goo? How do you want to handle those steps? You get one shot to get down them steps without him seeing you, and safely.
Ball of goo sounded good to me.
She said.
So you want to just leap down them stairs?
Yep. And kind of like try to roll, right? Roll into it. I'm not trying to hurt myself per se.
Type shit.
Yeah.
Okay, that's going to require 2 rolls from you. I'm going to need a jump, and then I'm going to need a tumble. But before you roll the tumble, let's see how this jump pans out first. If your jump works out pretty well, then yeah. If it doesn't, she goes, she goes, again, I feel like you're not popping your mood ring enough to discern your abilities. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
So keep that in mind for the next time. You know, you live and you learn. I'm not gonna let you re-roll it, but
That's okay.
well, yeah. If you had remembered the mood ring, I'd have been like, "Oh yeah, go ahead, pop it, re-roll it." But you know,
Right.
keep in mind in the future. You know, whenever you got to perform skills and stuff, just ask yourself, "Well, what does that require of me, and what can I boost myself with my ring with?" You know what I mean?
Right.
Right. So at this point, though, that jump, a flying squirrel you are not. So you run out and you come up to them steps and you just jump down them steps. And instead of trying to the ocarina of time it and put your shoulder into it and tumble to bounce up, you basically like go flying down them steps and then you hit and you accidentally belly flop on, like, you don't even make the full steps, you make it about halfway down and then you belly flop and you actually tumble off the side of the stairway, just down. Which yeah, basically. Yeah. It is not your most graceful moment, no. You just, boom, hit him, bounce, and fall off the side of the stairwell. Just, and you remember that was a drop. That was up in the air. So, you fall a total of probably about 10 feet. Just
I'm squishy,
down
though.
into,
I said I'm squishy, though.
Yeah, just down into some trees on the bottom, just whap, 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 just slapping them on your way down. Go ahead and roll me a reflex save.
Is that in skills?
Yes. No, that'll be in your stats tab. Underneath your abilities, you'll have strength, dex, con, intelligence, blah, blah, blah. Underneath all that, you'll have fortitude, will, and reflex.
21.
Nice. Okay, so nice. So instead of just hitting the ground completely, you actually fall into these trees and bounce off a couple of them, but you catch a branch on one and just like a cat. Just catch one like belly first. I mean, like you're bear hugging this branch and the branch is just wobbling. And then it stops. It does do, though, the whole ordeal does do 16 points of subdual damage. So, where you have that 7 in your subdual damage,
Yeah.
add 16 to 7, and that'll be what you're at now.
Alright. You said 16 to 7?
Well, it should be 23 points altogether, because you got 7, you add 16 to it, so it should be 23.
Alright, but
So all in all, you've got 23 points of subdual damage, which you've got a high enough HP that you're not dangerously close to being knocked out yet. I'm just passing out from being beat up,
right.
But I mean, you're feeling it, right? Like if you had the same kind of anatomy as, say, like Android or Zoltan or Uquill, you'd feel like a couple of ribs kind of crack a little bit,
Yeah.
But you're just kind of like, oh.
Glad to
Yes.
see you
Oh my
left.
goodness.
Yeah. Ow.
It looks
Ow.
like Britney Spears was his mom.
Jesus. Anyways,
The
though,
ashtray.
yeah. So
Yeah.
you're all you're hanging out in this tree for a little while, and you can hear Kara Shin up there above you though, like move to the doorway and stuff. Like you hear him kind of call out and whatnot, and go back into his room and start like thrashing around, like looking for something or someone. And you realize before too long he's calling for guards and whatnot. And before too long you hear the loud metal soundings of armor, of heavily armored guards making their way up his steps as he's yelling at them, barking orders of some sort. But all the while, none of them even begin to notice you, because you are underneath the canopy of the treetops as you just lay there on this branch, having halfway peed yourself from almost from falling from such a high distance. And the most you can do is, sooner or later you'll have to climb your way down and make your way back to Android and Zoltan, who we are picking up with right now as now correct me if I'm wrong, and I may be wrong from last session, but I believe Zoltan went with Android and Laudi to speak with Mazaru, correct?
I thought so, yeah.
Yeah, he like said,
And Chumi.
I thought
That's
he said,
what you made to go back to the room.
Oh, that's right.
yeah, but Zoltan stayed with you guys, right? He just said,
Yeah, he did. That's right.
okay, so as you guys are walking back, all of a sudden Chumi's head just gets thrown at you. No, I'm just kidding.
Well,
Oh
man,
my goodness.
I asked for head, but not in that way.
Yo, chill.
Yo, right. Actually, I do remember that now, because there was the whole discussion about whether or not Zoltan was going to go back and get some sticky, or
Yeah, and I
if he was
think
coming with us.
and I think you insisted that he come with you so he could, fulfill his duties or whatever, and told him, but don't let nothing happen to her because she's an investment.
Yep,
Yeah.
Right.
yep. Got told not to let her die.
Yeah. That's
Zoltan's
that's
thinking
better
on how to
wording
make
than
her
Yeah.
not die.
yeah.
So we pick up with you guys entering Mazaru's private chambers, which the private chambers of the High Shaman in the Forbidden Palace, or the Forgotten Palace, I mean, is the Forbidden Palace. The Forgotten Palace is pretty. It's almost set up as if it were. Remember when you guys met the Shogun? When you first met Kara Shin inside his meeting chamber, right? It's set up way similar to that. It's almost like it's a meeting hall all of its own just for her. Only it's her private chambers. Except she's got this stairway leading up. She sits up on this stage with many steps going up to her. The only difference is she doesn't have candles lining it like he did, But her stage is far higher than his. I don't want you to think of it as a straight up vertical distance, but to walk up every single one of these stairs from bottom to top at that, staired positioning, that puts you about 80 feet away from her.
Yeesh.
And then at the very top, she's got set up there like pillows and things. Like you can see that she actually sleeps at the top of this thing. And in a way, it kind of makes sense for her because she's got those big blue crystalline majestic wings. She doesn't use these stairs at all. She flies up there. This is purely protection on her part, much like it is with Kara Shin. It's much harder to sneak attack her when you have such a high distance to try and reach her at. You know what I mean? So it puts you at like 80 feet away from her. But the stage itself, the platform and the stairway is built into the wall behind them. So it is a platform that is built off of the back wall. So it's not even a 360 degree turn, you know? And she's actually not on top of her platform right now. She meets you in a more intimate setting at a table next to all that, where she with her and the rest of her soon to be shaman, you know, all the high shaman in training for the day that she resigns. And she excuses all of them. And those three in particular, the one Zoltan, you recognize that one because he was the one that you had talked to that seemed real nervous, you know? You notice that he seems nervous now, even. You know? He keeps looking at you almost inquisitively. You can roll a sense motive to see why he keeps, like, trying to, like, sneak glances in your direction. That's for Zoltan, though.
Oh.
Nerd.
Yeah, Android, you would be completely unaware of this because well, not entirely though, because Zoltan did tell you everything they had experienced. So you are aware that Zoltan and them did speak with somebody, but you're not entirely sure it would be this guy, right?
Right, fair enough.
S. Did I even roll that one? Yeah.
Yeah, sense motive. You notice that he keeps like sneaking glances at you and that he seems nervous, but you can't really discern why, right? Because every time you try to like catch him in the act, he like looks away. You know what I mean?
He just a little sad glance at me.
But you are pretty sure that you do know for a fact that he is staring at you because you do use a trick, and this is a real life trick that you can always use on people in case you think you catch people looking at you and you're not sure if they are. Yeah, like and you keep trying to catch them, but they, you know, just yawn.
Why do I have that many
If you yawn and the person you think is staring at you yawns, you know they've been watching you.
People actually
Because yawns are contagious. If people aren't really paying attention to you, they'll not notice that you're yawning. You know, they'll just be doing what they're doing, right? But if you yawn, then you know anybody else who yawns is in some way, shape, or form paying attention to you. And so you do that little trick just to see, and he kind of yawns himself, but but because he's, you know, trying to, I won't say hide it, but because he's using a different kind of etiquette, he tries to cover his up, and you know, because yawning is kind of a rude thing to do, especially when people are talking. So he but you do notice that he yawns, and but eventually Mazaru tells those three to leave them, as she sits around the table with or as she sits down at her table. Android, you, Zoltan, and Laudi are standing there. Oddly enough, there isn't a chair for any of you, though. She's the only one sitting. She says, well, what is this, then, that you have to say to me?
So, just to clarify, did she excuse everybody else in the room?
Everybody else has been excused except...
That's okay, that's what I thought.
Android, Laudi, and Zoltan, yes.
Okay. Well, I guess Android's gonna kind of fold his hands behind his back and bow to her, you know? He's gonna remain bowed and just kind of tell her, I wanted to apologize to you personally for the way we acted in the dining hall. It was unbecoming of us, and we are an impatient people, and I would ask that you forgive us.
She says, well, it certainly was a first. I think I can clear it up with the people by reminding them that you are foreigners and that we need to be a more patient people. However, I would require that from here on out, you try to respect our customs a little bit more. And she doesn't just say that to you, Android. She says that to you as well, Zoltan. And she glares at you, and it's when she looks into you, it's almost like she's peering into your soul. You know what I mean? Like her gaze is intense. It's nothing magical. You don't have to roll against it. You know what I'm saying? You just get this feeling like she knows more about you than you've told her. You know what I mean?
She's used witchcraft on me.
Yeah, she's just gazing into you. You know what I mean? Like she knows you. She says, I would be honored if you could try to respect my people and their customs. Even when some of us are petulant. There's a reason why they are in the position of power they are. Kara Shin may not be the most friendly or pleasant of the Dragoon, but he is strong, and he has won a lot of campaigns. He has defended these lands, and he is smart tactically. So keep that in mind, that there is still something worth respecting about him, even if it's not his maturity.
At that, he kind of remains bowed, and he takes his right arm from behind his back and crosses it across his chest, kind of. He says, you have my word.
Zoltan also bows and says, yes, ma'am.
When this happens, Lao Di realizes it, and he begins to bow as well, just because. And Mazaru smiles. She says, okay. That is fine. All is forgiven, don't worry. But that still doesn't tell me why you need to hold an audience with me at such an hour.
The android says, well, he kind of stands up straight, and he says, well, forgive me again for the intrusion, but there's something very important that we need to discuss with you that we are unsure if you are aware of. And that is that there is a contract that has been put out, a bounty, so to speak, on your head during the time of the Jingsu.
She sits there quietly for a moment, and she says, you mean an assassination?
He says, yes, ma'am.
Well, I guess I don't have to remind you that should I or any Dragoon be murdered or killed during this time, that will effectively end the Jingzhou for good.
He says, yes, that's why I felt the need to bring it to your attention. At that, he kind of starts to break down everything that they've learned in the past day or so, or the past couple of days. what they've experienced since he last had a good discussion with her, including, of course, his meetings with is it the Kuatoa?
Yeah.
What have you, the Demon Sword Zaguchi, the treachery of the Banzai. And he says, but you must forgive them as a whole, please, Like, it's just the actions of one man, and he's like bowing again.
She laughs when you mention this about the bonsai and everything. She kind of chuckles a little bit. It's it's a very graceful laugh she has, Like there's an elegance even in her laughter, that kind of reminds you of like a warm spring like wind, blowing through
like Coralon the Rethian.
like blowing blowing through the fields, you know what I mean, of your homeland. Zoltan, you don't necessarily get that imagery in your mind, but it does remind you of like the warm breezes that you would get inside the caves of the underworld when exploring.
When your brother's farting in your face.
When you're shut up and let me finish my explanation.
Okay, sorry.
Stop it. No, like when you're
He
sleeping
said,
and
"Cook!"
when he comes and just slaps both cheeks around your nose. No.
That's brown nosing to a whole new level.
But like when you're
Nice.
like from the times in the underworld when you were exploring the darker places, the depths and stuff, and you would come across like areas of precious stones and jewels that naturally just light up the darkness, and you would find those warm breezes coming through there, and you know that this tunnel somehow leads to the surface somewhere, somehow, and there was a type of comfort there because you know that your father comes from there, he came from the surface, and it would give you a slight comfort because you know that there's a whole other world out there, and it's that elegance, that warmth that you guys feel as she kind of laughs at that. She goes, well, granted, it certainly was a foolish plot on the Great Hare's part to make a mock assassination attempt on me with using the demon sword Saguchi. Unfortunately, he didn't think his plan through very well because everybody who's anybody knows that if the demon sword Zaguchi really wants you dead, he will get you. That's why it's such a dangerous thing to have him after you. And nobody would have believed that the Banzai were capable of stopping him. He would have instantly been up for inspection just on that alone. At least it wouldn't have fooled me anyways. Regardless, perhaps if our cultures weren't so obsessed with power, the constant pull and push of divided forces, having position in life, I guess, wouldn't be so important that the Great Hare wouldn't feel so anxious to do something like this. Sadly, though, all he's done is opened up the doorway for somebody much more sinister to actually try and carry out the plot. He himself was a patsy and a red herring for your investigation. I will forgive him, but I am going to speak with him personally and reprimand him for this. And she says this, and when she says this, her voice, her tone becomes way more serious. Not deathly serious. It's not like when you were listening to Lord Farron talk about his servant girl, you know, and you knew, oh man, she's in for it.
Oh man,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? Like
Throws his glass against the wall.
Yeah, like he's gonna hurt her when nobody's around. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's not that kind of, you know, malice, but there is a certain sternness in her voice, and her expression, her eyes have become like iron, like pools of sapphire steel, you know? And as she bears into all three of you, and again, it's like she's looking into you, each one of you, even Laudi, and her expression fixes on him for maybe a little bit too long. And you kind of feel, Android, you feel him shift behind you uncomfortably again. Then she goes back and she says, so, what is the plan then?
Android kind of, you know, draws a sharp breath, you know, and just kind of bows to her again. He says, well, we're still investigating, and that's why we felt the need to bring it to your attention now before it escapes us or something of the like. We feel the need to at least increase security or something of the sort, you know?
She says, it seems to me that they have a lot of moving parts. To throw you off, they've perhaps acquired the help of other races. So not just one race can be pinpointed.
Correct.
Is it the Dragoon who are plotting against my life, my own people? Is it the Kuatoa? Is it the Nizumi? You know, it could be anybody. And they're using hired help, basically. I do find it interesting that Bull Krogi may know something that he's not telling you. But that could be a personal matter, and again, could be just another red herring. I don't know. It's really up to you and your own discretion on how you proceed with him. Be warned, though, that when you start to play that kind of game with the Kuatoa, you're basically walking into a maze of madness. For they are not normal. I don't know if that has become apparent to you yet or not, and I may be just speaking as a child trying to explain a blade of grass to an adult who has lived well long enough to know what a blade of grass is, as it were. Regardless, be forewarned about the Kuatoa. For they may take you to dark places, and it may lead you nowhere. Do you have any real suspects?
Android kind of, you know, tilts his head to one side and he says, well, I have the mushroom looking into the
Sorry.
into the shogunate.
Which shogunate?
Oh, the aforementioned petulant child.
When you say that, she kind of breathes in sharp. She goes, Kara Shin.
That's correct.
I like how in the background of your mic, I can hear Garrigus go, yeah.
Yeah.
She goes,
Yeah, that one.
you think that my colleague may be trying to get rid of me. To what? Further his power, perhaps?
Perhaps.
When you as you say this too, Laudi kind of shoves into you a little bit, you know what I mean? Not out of nervousness or anything. It's almost like he's urging you to like speak your mind, but he doesn't want to say anything. You know what I mean? Like,
right. It's like giving me an elbow.
Yeah, kind of like, you know. And as he does this, he just
say it with your chest.
Yeah, he kind of nods in your direction with a look in his face, like, tell her. You know.
Android's kind of like, well, I hate to say it this way, but you could call it a hunch. I've seen the look of murder in somebody's eyes before. And some of the looks he gave you at the dinner tonight were disturbing at best.
I see. He goes, and I know the look of hate in the eyes of others when I see it as well. And she looks at Laudi. She says, I just hope that you're not letting your bias cloud your judgment. And she's speaking to him more than anybody. Now, you pick up. He says, I am only simply doing what is best for the people. And Kara Shen isn't what's best for the people. You know this. And if what he is attempting to do is fulfilled, then our people will suffer greatly. And she stares at him for a long time. Again, her eyes are just like steel made of sapphire, you know? And she, for a long time, she looks at him, and then she looks at you, Android. And you notice Laudi now he's almost shaking. I mean, he's remained stoic, but you can just tell there's like a slight tremor in his body, as if it's taking everything in him to just not begin to tremble under her gaze. And she looks at you now, Andrew, and she says, how did you come to know of this assassination attempt? Well, I suppose I shouldn't say it's an attempt yet, for we don't know if they're going to succeed. But how did you come to know of this plot?
Android kind of clears his throat and straightens up, you know, as to not be, like, you know, disrespectful, I suppose. And he says, well, I believe it was Laudi that brought it to my attention. Is that correct? He kind of turns to him.
He bows respectfully and he says, the shaman Meow Meow, she became aware of it, and she told me of the plot, and told me what I needed to do to ensure that it does not carry through. That if it is Karashin, that he does not succeed in his endeavors. And she, Mazaru, she says, oh, And how did Meow Meow, my colleague, come to know of this plot? She did not say. Laudy answers. She says, if it is Kara Shin, then Meow Meow has greatly stunted her career as a shaman. And she looks at you, Zoltan, and looks at you, Android. Just looks from one to the other, and she says, Meow Meow is, though she is a country woman, she lives in the country, she is actually a shaman of no small feat. In fact, she could have been high shaman, and in fact, I hate to admit it, but there are times where I even envy her ability. The problem that you face now is the fact that she may be involved in an accusation against, well, next to the ancestors, the highest ranking official we have in our land. Even if she is correct, she's still accused a dragoon. And that will ostracize her in our society. So she is taking she's taking a huge risk with this for whatever reason. But I think I understand why she's doing this. And so you have my blessing to continue your investigation in any way you need to. Understood?
Andric bows. Low to the ground. He says, understood.
Touches the head to toes.
She looks at you, Zoltan. And, do what? I'm sorry.
I also bow from peer pressure.
Nice.
She looks at Laudy now. She says, is that understood? He says, I understand. She says, because this will hurt your reputation as well. Maybe even more so. And she just glares at him once more, and he says, it's what's best for the people. And then her expression softens, and she says, I agree. It is. If it is Kara Shin, bring him down. You have my blessing. And he bows as well now. She says, you mentioned that you were going to go to the farm tomorrow, correct? That you had found some kind of liquor and that was your next objective?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Long Zi Nong Chang.
Right.
Yes, the farm. You'll be speaking with Ziju Nanzi. He is craft.
With the who? Sorry, anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, he's got a name. She goes, it's a mouthful. I understand.
No,
I'm gonna choose to believe that that's exactly how Android reacted to that name. She says, it's a mouthful. I know. Our ways are not your ways. If it makes you feel any better, everybody just calls him Z. He is a crafty fellow. You'd have to be to have cornered the market on all the fire wine.
That shit sounds fire. Okay, I'm off it.
When speaking with him, be ready to take everything he says at a grain of salt. Question everything until you know for sure. Understood?
Understood.
She says, well, and she stands up and from the table and stretches in her wingspan. You realize her wingspan is darn near 15 feet on either side, you know? She's just got these wings, you know, that because she keeps them curled up most of the time, you know, you never even know they were that long, you know? But they are. These are some majestic blue crystalline wings, you know? And she's just like, oh, as she stretches. And then
I feel like she's flexing.
and then folds her, you know, and then flies herself up to the top of the, you know, and it's crazy because she only flaps her wings once to give herself lift off, and then the rest of the time it looks as if she could just glide as she hovers over to her stage in bed, her platform. She says, well, if there's nothing else, I am quite tired, and if I'm being honest, troubled. I have a lot of meditation to do myself. And I would like to go to bed.
Very well, as you wish. We will be on our way. Thank you for seeing us. And he kind of bows. And then he, alright, I'm gonna head out. You know.
Laudi bows as well and nudges you, Zoltan, to bow.
I also bow.
I mean, just elbows you right in the ribs.
I cough while I'm bowing in immense pain.
As you guys are beginning to leave, out of nowhere, the doorway to her chambers just bursts open, and you see entering, looking around, kind of frantic, a very disheveled looking Agaragis. Just, you know, what the? Looking around for you guys, you know? And, like, when I say disheveled, Agaragis doesn't have hair or anything, but somehow, like, there are, like, tree branches and stuff just, like, stuck to them. Like, broken, like, tree sticks and things, you know? Like, Agaragis looks like they've been rolling around in some bushes or something. And, yeah, just... I mean, it's startling when the door slaps open and you just see Agaragis just come running in there, just looking around all, you know, like, what the, you know, looking in the condition that they look.
Well, did you get mauled by a dog, buddy?
Pet it.
I don't know, I was on my way out. I could have been on. I got this. And I tossed him the vial with the map in it.
Android catches it and kind of pops it open and looks at it, you know.
There's someone who needs, with higher intelligence that has to look at that map.
So, Android, I will allow you to roll a Bard's knowledge about this map.
Gangsta.
To discern certain things about it, right? Like, some names and places and things are just going to be foreign to you. There's no way around it, right? But...
doesn't get any better than that.
nope, it sure don't. Which, I had a discussion about this once, and I don't mean to go off on a side tangent, but I had a discussion about this once, about the idea when people roll skill checks, how a natural 20 in a skill check isn't an automatic success, just like a natural 1 isn't an automatic failure. And I disagreed. I said, No, a natural 20 should be an automatic success, and a natural 1 should be an automatic failure when it comes to that. You know what I mean? And we talked about it for a long time, and I get where they're coming from because it's just a skill check, right? It's not like it's an attack or something, right? But the way I look at it is, if you do not make a natural 20 an automatic success in a skill check, then why are you letting your players roll the skill? Because if they can't even win with a 20, you see what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, I mean, like, especially contextually, you know, like
well,
you
the
said,
example
with Thorn,
is for like the seducing the dragon. It's like, okay, yeah, maybe you didn't seduce the dragon, maybe wing stage. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to play into like, oh, you're about
Right.
to bet a fucking dragon. But you know what I mean?
Well,
It's not to say
Right.
that you
Yeah.
failed, but you know, you're trying to seduce
Or-
a fucking dragon.
yeah, well,
right?
that's
Or
the whole
even this
point,
one
like,
where it's like, you know, I can successfully get as much as I can off of this, you know, based on what I
Yeah.
do know, but it's not like I'm just gonna be like, oh yes, and I know that this location is exactly 3/4 of a mile west of the Ding Dong Dang Mountain.
yeah, ding dong
You
dang.
know- you know
I
what
like
mean?
that. I like that though. Ding dong dang. Well, and that I guess going to that point though, like when they say seducing a dragon, it's like, well, you know, not to take away player agency or something, but it is a fine balance that a DM has to walk, right? Where it's like, I don't want to take away your agency, but sometimes I just got to, because some of that's just really asinine. And one of them is, you're not going to seduce the dragon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's
It-
kind
it-
of common knowledge where
it-
people are like, but the dice, look, motherfucker,
I
I'll
don't-
stab you in the neck. How about that?
Yeah, well, here's the thing, too, right? I'll stab you in the neck. But here's the thing about that, right? If you're capable of seducing the dragon, then you need to pay attention to the flavor text I give you about said dragon. You know what I mean? Like, maybe there is a way to seduce this dragon. Maybe you could seduce this dragon, but I will give you every way of knowing that that is a possibility without just outright telling you, hey, you could seduce this dragon, right? Maybe this dragon's kind of flirty or blah, 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 or something or other, or yada, yada, yada. But if you're dealing with, like, say, an undead, demon-possessed red dragon, and you're like, I'm gonna try and seduce him, I'm gonna be like, and he's gonna freaking burn you up. It's not gonna happen. You're gonna, I'm not even gonna, if you want to, you can. I'm not ever gonna tell you no, but I'm telling you right now, you're gonna fail no matter what. Because he's not.
Probably gonna die.
Yeah, because he's got no interest in you or your petulant boy right there. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't care. You know what I mean? Like, so that's what I'm saying. Like, you feel like you don't want to take away player agency by telling them they can't ever roll certain things, but honestly, I think it's better to just let them roll what they can roll and say, yeah, you can roll for this, but you know, you're going to last session when you got ambushed and stuff and they were holding you down, putting the thing, and you said, can I roll? And I said, well, you did. You tried to roll a listen. You know what I mean? Had you succeeded in the listen, things would be going different now. But because you failed that one roll, this whole scenario now is going to play out, and there's no rolls to be had. You see what I'm saying? It's not really. Well, yeah, it is. It is DM shenanigans, but that's where I get my fun. But you see what I'm saying? So that was not to go off on the side tangent. So it's like, yes, if you're gonna let them roll, don't just come up with a preset number in your mind. Just look at what they rolled and say that should be good enough. If you're gonna let them roll it, you know what I mean? And if they hit a natural 20, well, then let them have it, because they can't roll any higher than that. You see what I'm saying? Don't micro. Yeah, don't
say.
Yeah.
I'll come over.
Don't micromanage. Yeah, don't micromanage the numbers, the the DC. Don't micromanage the DC numbers in your head. Just say, I'm going to let them roll, look at what they rolled, and if that's really good, then I'm going to give it to them. If not, it's not going to happen. You know what I mean? That way you don't have to come up with DC numbers in your head and memorize everybody's stats, because that's crazy. Unless you're just like that. Maybe you're some kind of crazy mathematician who can do that. And if you can do that, good on you. But I mean, I'm an idiot, so all right. So off that tangent, yes, Android, you rolled a natural 20, and that's what brought this up. So you succeed, and
Yay!
what you are looking at, you know, you, like I said, you don't know places and names and certain things, but you do recognize that this is where you are. Like, you are here, right, on this map.
Right.
You recognize at least that indication. And you realize that what you are looking at is a campaign map. That whoever drew this up is planning on attacking everything else in a bid to conquer basically everything. And from the looks of it, it looks like this map is basically a plan, a strategy for the Dragoon to become the one shogunate. The one shogunate to rule them all. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And what's even more interesting is that it's not a crazy plan either. It's actually very tactically sound. It's still an insane plan, and that's what bothers you, is because
just insane enough to work.
Well, yeah, really, that's what it is. Whoever's planning this has to have some kind of... There is something here that is not being represented on this map. You know what I'm saying? Either with all the tactics, and like I said, it is tactically sound. With all the tactics, it's still not going to work, right? They may succeed a little bit, but there's no way they're going to conquer everybody. So if they're planning this, then there's something else that is not being represented on this map. Like I said with the Garrigus, there has to be an ace in the hole.
Right.
But tactically, I mean, it's pretty sound. You've been doing this enough. You've known enough people, you know, anywhere from Octavius August, the High Cleric of St. Cuthbert, to Coralon Lorethian, you know. You've known tactically minded men, and you know that this is pretty good.
Right.
This is pretty good. It's not 100% successful, and so it makes you have to wonder, what do they know that they're not telling you on this map?
Android's kind of looking at it, you know, and he kind of looks at Agaricus and he says, "Did you get this from Carl Roshan?"
I believe so. That's that's that big guy that we made angry earlier.
Yes. You got this from him?
Yes, and there was also another guy the one that went through the wall. He was there too.
The one that went through the wall. Oh. Yes, I remember. Interesting.
Yeah. So, I don't know that one's name.
So Android kind of keeps looking at the map, half-assed dumbfounded for a minute, and he's like, I think you may need to take a look at this. I think it, well, call it another hunch. He kind of, you know, shrugs again, and he's like, but, I think there may be an additional third party that may be using this as an opportunity to push their way in, like that he's just a piece of a larger puzzle.
And who are you saying this to?
Mazaru, because we're still at her in her bedchamber, correct?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
So you go to say this to her, and as you're saying this, Lao D interrupts you for a minute, and he just quietly points out the fact that she's already asleep, and he says to you, let's not bother her with any of the further details. This meeting was her way of letting us know that we have her full support to find and accuse whoever we need to. As stated before, Nani, and I are from here on out going to eternally be considered pariahs amongst our people for going after our own. Even if we're correct, there will still be those who won't 100% understand. If you can understand what it is I'm trying to say. So, the less involvement she has from here on out, the better for her reputation. It won't seem like she was pulling a coup on him.
Well, Android kind of gulps a little dryly, and he says, well, I guess we better make sure we get the right guys. He says, good work, Agaricus. I think I'm going to talk to Sebastian about getting you something. He kind of like scratches his head. You know, that something that'll let me see through your eyes or something. I don't know. Because I feel like there's more to this. And he's like, but all right, let's leave, I suppose.
So while Lao D was explaining that, was Zoltan saying what as if he didn't understand what Lao D was saying? Or
No, I looked at Discord and I saw.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted, I see that too. I just wanted to make sure that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. Agaricus, you're being a menace. With that said, Lao D suggests that you all retire to your bed chambers
CP time.
and rest. He's like, there's really nothing more we could do for tonight. It's probably best that we get up early in the morning and head out to the farm.
No objections.
Can do.
So everybody begins to go to their separate rooms and everything. Sultan. And I'm just assuming that, like, Android, you go into your meditative state, and Agaricus, you become your little, you plant yourself, go into your, like, little torpor mushroom form, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Zoltan, you go to your room, and in there, Chumi is waiting for you. And she's like, oh, you're okay. I'm so glad. I was afraid that, you were going to get into a lot of trouble because of me. Do what now?
That was
New magic suit. Sorry,
Um,
sorry.
I did get in trouble because of you. Anyways, moving on. What did you find out?
She like frowns a little bit. She's like, I'm so sorry. She's like, I didn't want to get you into trouble. She's like, maybe you shouldn't have stuck your neck out for me like that. You should have just left me a slave.
I'm speechless.
That sounded cold-blooded as fuck.
It did. It really did. Is that what he said to her?
No.
Oh, okay.
Sultan's not that mean. Not yet, at least. Why do you say that?
She says, well, because I've done nothing but cause you trouble. She says, and I'm not as high of birth as you are. I still myself can't figure out why you would even bother to go through so much trouble for just a lowly servant girl.
Didn't Zoltan explain to her where he came from?
Kinda. And she's got, like, when it was explained to her, she's got a rudimentary understanding of what the underworld is. They know it, but it's more like folklore to them. You know what I mean? It's like the idea that everybody living in Finland 1,000 years ago had maybe 90% of them had never bumped into a troll, but everybody knew what a troll was and what it does. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's that similar thing. She doesn't really comprehend how drow society works. Although she did feel that kinship with you when you explained to her that men are not respected in drow society. But even so, that's just conditioning on her part to just still assume that you're still more high-born than she is. You know what I mean?
Mm. Damn, I was gonna say something clever and I forgot it. How dare you?
Are you talking to your own brain? How dare your brain for...
Yes, how dare I? Damn goldfish memory.
She says, anyways, I didn't find out much. I talked with this woman known as the Crone.
Oh.
And I started asking about the Shujinja and the Wujin. And she says they she didn't tell me much. She wanted to know who I was asking for. I told her, my lord. And she insisted that if she was going to say anything else, she wanted to meet you. And then now this entire time she's been like talking to you, but her head has been bowed, like she hasn't been looking at you. Like her hair is coming down in front of her face as she holds her head down, you know? And then the second she says that, she says she wanted to speak with you directly. Her head slowly tilts up, but not all the way, just enough to where her eyes now can look up at you, like the big doll eyes, you know? And she says, tonight.
Tonight?
She said immediately.
Mm. Well, damn. Zoltan walks over to her. He puts his finger under her chin and tells her not to bow to her and kisses her, and then she walks out the room.
Oh.
Like a stud.
She stands
Yeah.
like Okay, so I want you to picture him just like walking out of the room, and the camera is still just on her face, and she just gets this like glossy eyed, doll like grin on her face. You know what I mean? And she's like, "Oh, wait!" And then she turns around and follows you out the door. And she goes, "You don't even know where you're going. I gotta show you."
Damn.
You Quill.
Yes.
You are now 100% aware that you are trapped inside your own mind.
Nice.
And it is strange now. You find yourself in this dark forest. It's familiar without it being familiar, if that makes any sense. It's like you know what a forest is, you know what a forest does, you know what's in a forest, you know what sounds it should make, and yada yada yada. But it's familiar. But what forest it could be any forest. Maybe it's just a forest you conjured up in your own head to explain a forest. If if you catch my meaning here. It's like you're in a forest at twilight. It's not dark yet, but it's not bright and sunny either. It's got that, everything has got that low gray blue tint to it. As you're standing in this forest, the typical chirpings and hummings, and you're standing there for a minute, and then you suddenly feel as you're catching your bearings, you suddenly feel a tremor in the ground. Just a low rumble. That you have to steady yourself for, but it's not aggressive either. It's not so aggressive that it would knock you down, but you have to steady yourself simply because it took you off guard. It wasn't something you were expecting. As you're
All right.
Yeah. Alrighty then. Off in the distance, you can hear a crowd cheering. Somewhere off, down through this darkened forest. To the behind you, you have no idea. To the left or the right, you have no idea. It's just all forest. But ahead of you, you can hear the cheerings of what sounds like the arena. It's all up to you. What you would like to do here.
Go towards the cheering.
Let us move towards the cheering? Okay. Figured that's what you'd want to do, but just making sure, in case you I'm like, you start moving towards the cheering, and you go, actually,
Oh, second thought.
I thought I'd burn down this tree right next to me and make a fire. Just make it double sure, So you begin to move through the forest towards this cheering, and as you come to the clearing of it, you find yourself looking at the arena of the honored Jingzhu. I don't want you to think of some giant Roman Colosseum either. I have never quite explained what this arena looks like. It's not made out of stone and mortar. It is made out of wood and plaster. It is
Cool.
it is more square than circular, and it actually has an awning at the very top of it that stretches across the whole ceiling of it, covered in those clay red not bricks, but slats, I guess. Not slats. What is the word I'm looking for?
Big things with playthings?
Can't think of what they're called now. When you're roofing, what is that? You put the
Shingles?
shingles, yes. The those red clay shingles that overlap each other that just da 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 down it. Looks like dragon scale. Just bum 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 all the way. This awning stretches all the way down, but it never touches. It never comes together at the center. It leaves a wide enough gap that plenty of sunlight can get down into it. An aerial view of this would make it look like a dragon's eye. Much like a cat's eye, but more slender, more slit, like the kind of eye you would see on like a gator, for instance, or some kind of lizard. And that's the way this arena has always looked. The differences in this arena that you are finding from the waking world is how the arena on the bottom had an open floor plan being held up by solid wooden pillars so people could walk underneath the sitting area above, and that's where you were taking your meeting your audience and meeting your new fans and things like that, where the assassination on your life happened, where the guy the Koatoa tried to stab you with one of those blades to separate your essence from your body. Now that area is completely gone. Now it's just one solid structure and there is no Forgotten Palace. In fact, there is no Forgotten City at all. Now the arena just sits in this clearing, this large clearing of trees by itself, with people cheering and one entranceway into the arena. Even the barracks to which the honored chosen come from is gone. All that. It is now just the singular arena. It's like your mind is remembering enough of the arena but leaving out some of the detail. With one large open doorway for you to enter, and as you look into that doorway, you can see directly into the center of it, where the fighting takes place, where the entertainment happens, as it were. As you can hear these people chanting. What would you like to do?
Let's try to go in.
Okay. You enter into the arena, and as you enter, the crowd cheers for you as if they've been waiting for you. You hear the all too familiar voice of the announcer, "And you, Quill, the honored chosen has arrived." Although the announcer, as familiar as it is, he sounds different now. More dark, more gruff, low. He says, "He has arrived for the final challenge." And you see your challenger standing there. And once again, it is the best, like I said, best you can compare it to is a tiefling made out of solid jade. Although, unlike a tiefling whose horns are usually larger and have more curvature, these are more thin and they don't curve nearly as much. They just aim towards up. They look more like little demon horns. And in fact, the more you get to looking at him, the more you realize he looks more demonic than he does than even a tiefling looks, Tieflings still have more humanoid features. And while this guy is very humanoid, there is something almost like I said, infernal even about him. Not even just abyssal. There is something infernal about his look as he stands there looking at you, and he says, "Enter, you Quill. Meet your destiny here on this road. Die with honor. And as he beckons for you, you look down and you realize suddenly you're all decked in your armor. Your weapons and everything are now suddenly on you.
Okay.
Yeah, he
Well,
waits.
just like, what the fuck's this about, bro?
Says, excuse me? And everybody just gets quiet. Like, unnaturally quiet. Everything just... as if everything is just shut down or something. He says, excuse me?
¿Lo comprende, common?
So what is this about? How should I know?
Well, how the fuck am I supposed to know?
You were marked for death. I am just carrying out the sentence. Plain and simple. And when he says that, you feel that slight rumbling again.
Oh. Care to elaborate? Mark, forget. Get in line, motherfucker. Like, damn. It's like, you heard of a guy named Nero? Nero, you heard of him? Yeah, he don't like me neither. So what? Whose grievance am I dealing with this week?
Says, I don't know.
Think about it. You spend as a box full of busted. Oh, I swear to God.
He says, I have one job, and that is not to ask questions.
No, it's just to get your ass whipped. Got that.
Says, you clearly are a foreigner. Says, you are not aware of what I am. I am aware only of what you are because I am here now. He goes, but that, whether I understand or you understand, matters not. Mine is not to question why. Yours is but to die. Plain and simple.
Hate to be the bearer of bad news. That ain't happening.
Says, oh, you will not fight?
Never said that. Never said I was gonna die.
Says, you're already dead. This is but a mercy I am giving.
Seems to be quite alive to me.
Says, well, and he draws this blade and he says, fair enough, I suppose. I cannot force you to fight me, but you are welcome to stand in the middle of this arena and meet your maker, whoever it is you pray to.
Equal just sighs and drops Eros out. He's like, well, fuck it. Yes.
So as you get to walking towards him, suddenly the audience chimes up again. He says, all right, let it be so then. As you begin to approach him, suddenly you feel somebody just, rush you from the side. You didn't even see it coming, right? And it's the weirdest thing because, like, you're walking into an open arena and then suddenly you're being pushed off to the side and into a wall that shouldn't be there, and a door is being opened up and you're being pushed through it and the door is being closed, and you find yourself in your childhood home. And
Okay.
and you're the person who has shoved you in there is none other than Zanye. And she's just like turns and looks at you, and she's like instantly on her guard. Like she makes a stance, and she goes, "You quit. Are you cool?"
Bruh, you tell me.
She like looks you over, and she goes, and then her guard drops, and she goes, "Yes, I suppose you are who you are. That was a pretty stupid answer."
You just looks at it like,
She goes, I'm sorry.
been a week.
That was-
a week, man.
She goes, I'm sorry. That
He
was
takes no offense to it. He's just like, bro, if you only knew the half of it, I'm about to fuck some shit up right now.
She goes, I apologize. No, I've been She goes, you're not joking when you say it's been a week. It feels like I've been stuck in your head for a month. She goes, it took forever to find you. She goes, you know how many things I've had to, how many different kinds of weird... You have a lot of weird things that I've had
You
to...
just chuckles.
She goes,
Like,
what's...
did you meet him?
She goes, what's wrong with you? She goes, him? Who?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Then you're safe.
The Jade Worm? No. I haven't...
No, not him. Not him.
She says, no, I just... I
He's
don't...
right. His essence is still a part of me, right?
Yeah, he's who? Whose essence? The thing? The thing that you were talking to
No,
just now?
Fenrir.
Oh, Fenrir. Kind of, but it's not like what it was. You know what I mean? Before it was like almost like a soul inhabiting your body, but
Yeah.
you've become kind of one now in that sense, right? Like you, henceforth your transformation when your transformation happened. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, yeah, you're kind of like one being now, but it is. I guess you could say it's kind of like a voice in your head, you know, like, I don't want to say like it's a voice in your head, like it's a separate entity. It's like, you know, when you're talking to yourself and you tell yourself like, oh, I know I shouldn't have done that, or I shouldn't have. Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, it's just become like a part of your personality. You know what I'm saying?
You're like Kami Piccolo.
Nice. I like
Yeah.
that. I like that. I fuck with that.
Yeah, exactly. So,
That I can get. No, I can get jiggy with it.
she goes, no, but she goes, she's like she said, she goes, what? Who? Me? Who? She goes, you've got a lot of trauma.
No, chew meat.
She goes, you guys, yeah, she goes, stop. She goes, you've got a lot of trauma that you don't deal with.
Oh yeah, noticed.
Yeah, and I've had to survive it. Let me put it to you like that.
Fair enough.
She goes,
Shit.
are you aware of what's going on with you right now?
No. No. Yeah, no. No, we're not gonna fake the funk. Some shit's happening though, I can tell you that. That much I do understand. Shit is definitely happening that I don't like. That much is more than evident.
She says, okay, well,
There's some guy that evidently says he's here to kill me because I've been marked for death.
the Jade Worm, yeah.
Yeah, him. Swell guy.
She goes, well, he just is what he is. He's a parasite. That's it. He's attached himself to your brain, and he's... And she goes, you may want to sit down for this. He's, in essence, he's eating it.
Oh, fun.
She goes, it's... Granted, you haven't... It doesn't work like If he could just take a straight up bite out of it as a child bites from an apple, you'd be dead already. So it doesn't quite work that way, but as soon as he breaks through your mind's natural barriers, he's going to devour it. They're spectral creatures. He's just doing his job. They're neither good nor evil. They're a tool used by the Jade mercenaries. Normally used by the Jade mercenaries. Says, but their leader is one of the Honored Chosen, and he swears up and down he did not order this hit. And I believe him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that feels so comforted right now.
She says, well, Lord Dai Fu, he may be so stoic, he's almost tasteless. He does have a sense of honor. He wouldn't order the hit of one of the Honored Chosen. In fact, that would just mean that he might not have a chance of facing you himself. So, whoever did this is just using tactics of the Jade mercenaries. And because the Jade worm is neither good nor evil, it doesn't really necessarily care who's using it. You understand?
I get what you're putting down, but I still don't like it. You're not giving me answers necessarily to what now?
She says, oh, well now we have to find a way through your brain's natural blockers. I'm currently mind melding with you. It's a gift I have. And she kind of looks embarrassed when she says it. It's normally extremely frowned upon. It means the fact that I can do it just means I have ancestry in the underworld somewhere. I'm currently mind melding with you so I can get in here to help you because you are literally dying in the waking world right now in front of our very eyes. We literally, she says, we literally have Kung Po laying on top of you with all his weight to keep you still so you don't accidentally hurt yourself.
Yeah, I'm alive right now. He's not small.
She goes, no, he's not, and it's actually kind of funny. And well, if we both survive this, then we can laugh about it later. But for now,
Yes.
she says, well, she reaches over and just kind of slaps you across the face, not hard, but just kind of like, pay attention.
It's like I'm killing somebody.
She's like,
Fucking somebody's dying for this.
I need you to focus. She goes, because if your brain goes and my consciousness is connected to it, mine's gonna go. You may die physically and spiritually, but I'm gonna become a vegetable.
Killing somebody for this.
She goes, so it's not just you that's in danger now. She says, well,
Yeah, Yuquo's not paying any attention. It's just like he's remembering it. Somebody's dead. So fucking dead. Don't know who's gonna die, but they're gonna die. They're so fucking dead.
As you're doing that, the ground rumbles again. Only harder this time. She's like, okay. She goes, okay. Every time that happens, it means he's breaking through. Eventually, he's gonna get through.
So how exactly do we fix this besides natural brain defense that I have no fucking idea how to fucking fuck? Fuck!
She kind of looks around and she goes, what? She looks at the decor of this place because it is very Andes Dulai, you know? It's got like a weird mixture of like Eastern and Asian aesthetic to it. You know what I mean? Like Eastern European and Asian aesthetic, you know? to put it in meta terms, which I hate to have to do that, but that's the best way to explain it, right?
Yeah, no, I got you.
You know, it's like it's not as clean as you would see from like say like because one thing you've noticed about Pangshun, the continent of Pangshun and its peoples is they are very clean, you know? Even in dirty areas, it is weirdly clean, right? This isn't as clean, you know? It's not filthy, it's just not as clean, but it's got like familiarity for her, you know, even she does, you know?
Yeah.
And she's just kind of looking around, she goes, where are we? Exactly. What
Sweet
is
home?
this? This is your home? Or like you live here?
Well, not now, but at one time, long ago.
Says, okay, so we're in a memory. She says-
Sure.
She says, okay, that's the trick. We're gonna have to work through your mind for the love. And she just kind of meditates for a minute. She goes, okay, we're gonna have to survive your own head.
That's not good.
Because somewhere hidden away in here is the worm. And if we can find him, we can stop him.
Okay.
She goes, normally we'd get like a Sohei or somebody for this, but frankly, we have to do this under wraps. We can't get a shaman or anybody to try and do this on the outside because this is an assassination attempt on you. And we've all agreed that we're not going to... And she looks kind of bashful and she goes, don't misunderstand this, but we're not going to risk the Jingzhou because somebody tried to shed blood. You understand?
Shedding blood at some point.
She goes, we will. So I'm going to get you out of this. You just got to promise. You got to promise me that you're going to help me because I have no idea. Only you are going to know where to go. Honestly, we're going to have to figure it out.
I mean, yeah, I'm gonna do what I can to get the fuck out of whatever the fuck this is.
Says, well, and she's just kind of looking around. She goes, well, if you were something wanting to hide inside your own mind so you could try and kill it, where would you go? Like, what would be your thinking? You know your mind. What is the darkest, deepest place that it could go to be unaware? She goes, because you can't face off with him in that form. When he said he was going to give you a mercy killing, he was just about to just completely stop you altogether.
Decapitation.
If he actually finds you and takes you out, he's going to break that barrier completely. In that form, he's unstoppable. We have to find him in his actual form too. That's just a representation of how he thinks he should look, how they think they should look. You understand how this works?
Kind of.
Avoid him at all costs. Because if he kills you, which he will, then then your barriers are gonna break. In short, that's what it is. We have to find his true form, and it's hidden somewhere here in your memory. And then you feel the again. She goes, oh my gosh. She goes, we need to go, or something. She's like, where should we go? Pick a door, I'll follow you.
Equal takes a second, tries to think, like, you know, he's kind of mulling over what she said, like, where would I go if I was trying to hide? Fuck.
Well, at this point, Uquill, and this is only something you can answer, actually. What was Uquill's childhood home like? You know what I mean? What would he remember the most about it? Do you think?
Probably like, how do they say, trauma is the thing that sticks with you the most?
Yeah. Yeah.
So probably like the more like, you know how like we used to discuss like whatever his shit, like his home wasn't exactly the funnest place to be, so it would be there at his house. So probably like his room or something, where he just kind of like sulked.
Okay. So, you get that idea, right? And you turn to head towards your room. You go through another door, and you're instantly inside your room. You know, because the physics here aren't working like normal physics, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're not necessarily needing to turn and go up some stairs or anything like that. You just turn and you go out the front door because you realize there isn't an actual direct pathway to your room. So you go out the front door and that instantly takes you into your room. And Zanye, she just follows you. She's like, oh, wait up, don't leave me behind. And she she goes with you.
Save me, looking ass.
Inside your room, what was Uquill's childhood room like? What did it look like? Describe it for us.
I would say like, not like barren, right? But like they weren't exactly the most wealthy of folks. So like he had stuff, but it was like he had like a ghetto cot for, you know, like a bed, you know, a little table where he'd like, you know, tinker with his, you know, when he's dreams of weapons, when he's at his little table, and that's basically it, you know, nothing grand, just his little tinkering area in his bed.
It's the shape of the room itself is like an attic, you know, and he's got a singular window for light, but it's a circular window like a porthole on a ship, letting in the light. And it's raining outside, and you and Zinye come into this room, and you see Uquill, a very young childhood Uquill, you know, sitting on your cot, and you're just sitting there. And when I say a very young Uquill, I mean like his legs are dangling above the floor, you know.
Can't get there quite yet.
And his
On that get gooder status, motherfucker.
yeah, and his head is bowed, and he just looks completely dejected right now. And you can hear fighting going on. A man and a woman are having an argument with each other right now. And what based upon this memory, what is Hyperion and Agnes, what are they arguing about? What is this memory?
Probably just over like the situation, like of everything, like you know what I mean, like the whole how humans are treated in Anasdugally, you know what I mean, like just like the standard, you know, like overly oppressed people, fucking, you know what I mean, just the struggle, you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
you know, it's just like. When are we going to do something about this? And he's like, bro, what the fuck am I supposed to do about this?
Yeah.
That type of shit, you know, that's just like, I'm trying to make it not die my damn self. Like, what do you want from me?
So, in essence, Hyperion, who is a soldier, a loyal soldier, because we knew this about him.
Yeah.
Agnes is yelling at him because he's about to go on to another campaign
Pretty much.
for the Damphir overlords for something that is probably superfluous, really, in the scheme of things. And like you said, she's saying, you know, what are we, you know, your master's call, and you go running, and he's just like you said, bro, what do you want me to do about it? You know, I'm just trying to survive and provide.
You want me to say no so I can just die? Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Hashtag good idea, woman.
And this argument is happening, and it, you know, you and Xinye stand there like watching little Yuquil and listening to this fight take place, and both of you are just silent. And then it's almost like a whisper or like a slight faint gust of air as the voices kind of what do you call it? Oh, dissipate? You know what I mean? Like you hear the argument, you relive the memory, and then it's just like a slight wind just, and it's like it's gone, you know what I mean? Like end scene type of thing. But you're still just sitting there in this room watching the static image of yourself just sit there on this bed contemplating this. And Xinye, she's just got this like look on her face, and though you don't let her know that you notice, she looks over at you with like this sadness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But she doesn't let it linger. She doesn't just sit there and burn a hole in the side of your face either. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, I gotcha.
And she looks over at your table and she notices the little weapons that you're carving out of wood and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? And she just happens to notice one sitting there. One in particular that you could tell that you've been working on more so than the others. The others look like you just kind of carved up. You know what I'm saying? But but there's one in particular that looks like it's had a lot of TLC. What kind of weapon is that? Is it a sword or an axe or what?
Yeah, it probably would have been like a oh, what are they called? Oh, a kukuri. That's what we're going with.
A kukuri?
The short swords, like short swords. Yeah.
I know what
Basically
you're
one of those. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So
like, it would have been one of those, like he had seen it once upon a time, and he just thought it was the coolest thing because it wasn't just your standard sword.
Exactly.
So again, you know, they're really poor. So like to him, that was like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Odd, exotic, you know, fucking.
Yeah, it's a weapon, but it's not like any other weapon that normally you would see, like your people would see. You know what I mean? Yeah. I like. Yeah. So she and to her too, for Xinye, that's not a necessarily a common sword either. You know what I mean? Like that looks exotic to her even as she walks over and like looks at it and even touches it. And she's like, "What is this you were working on?"
He just kind of like like he's noticing everything, but like this is also kind of the reaffirmation of why he's doing everything he's done to this point, and it's almost kind of like almost like a slap in the face of like, bro, you've been having too much fun. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is why we're here, type of thing. But so he's like in his own head. He just kind of passes like, it's a sword that I saw once upon a time. You know what I mean? Just kind of.
He's in his own head quite literally right now.
Yeah, he's in his head. In his head.
Yeah.
It's like, if anything, he's more mad.
Mind blown.
Yeah, the situation has pissed him off to the point he's like, we kind of did a couple cool things and we forgot that we're here to fuck shit up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Chew bubble gum and fuck shit up, and we're all out of bubble gum. And we've just been out here. All right, cool. So yeah, he just kind of passively, he's like, it's a sword that I saw once. It, tells her the name of it, and I just seen it once, thought it was cool, and kind of fell in love with the design. It's like, it's not overly impractical or practical. It's just, when I was a child, it was different than the swords you see, and he kind of chuckles. He's like, our people had, and he kind of looks at himself,
Mm-hmm. She allows her fingers to like trace the handle, because on the handle you've taken the time to like whittle actual design into it, and actually sand it down and make it smooth, Like I said, you paid more attention to this one than any of the others that are on the table, And so she's letting her hand just kind of run down the crevices of this design, this whittling. And she says, it's beautiful. You've been thinking about being a man of martial status your whole life. She looks at, the static image of you, and she says, you were so little then.
Equal just chuckles. He's like, here you didn't have a choice. It wasn't really optional. It's like I was gonna fight one way or another, or he's like, basically go be a slave. He's like, so you either fought and got the breadcrumbs, or you were a slave and got the crumbs of the crumbs. He's like, therefore the predicament. You die either way. And so he just kind of chuckles,
She kind of looks around for a moment. She goes, well, he's not here. Should we continue on then?
He's like, yeah, sure. Good idea.
So the only way out is the way you came back in. The only way out is the way you came in. So naturally you just turn around and open up that door and step through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she follows you through. Where would your mind on this track take you next? Like, since you're following this path now, where do you think it would take you next?
Probably. It would probably be the last time Agnes and Yupil had a conversation, whenever we were discussing the secrets of power. Because, again, it's kind of like the reaffirmation of what he was doing. And that's the most recent time that he actively, still had that fire. Yeah.
So is this that moment? Now I'm going to ask, is this a moment from a time before Yupil was, I guess, a player? Or is this that...
No, this would have been as a player. This is whenever Agnes got right before she got kidnapped. I want to say before the time leak. It's the time leak. When we got back, she was gone.
Yes. Okay.
So it would have been before the time jump.
I remember this. That's why I was asking. I was checking to see if this is a deeper memory or if this is something that we had played before we had started recording our sessions. Okay, so
No, yeah, this is during. That's why I went with it, because it was the most. It was probably the longest interaction Agnes and Yuko had in game,
yeah, I remember
to
it.
my knowledge.
And that, because I can't remember it verbatim, right? We're gonna kind of paraphrase, but as you guys step in, you're now at the farmhouse there in the lands of Whitesword, or the nation of Whitesword, on the continent of Siren. You're at the farmhouse now, the little ranch home and sitting there is the old woman, your mother Agnes, with her long silver hair and her she looks like a kindly old woman, but we all know what she's really capable of. And,
We all know who she really is.
yeah, we know what you are. And you, as you're sitting there and she's talking to you, and Zanye witnesses the conversation that you had about your father's pursuit for the secret of power, and how it's basically, in short, become like your birthright, kind of. It's like the one thing that he really left you, besides the work ethic, is this secret of power. The thing that is common in Andes Dulai amongst all of the warriors, all the slayers, is what is the secret of power, because everybody really wants to figure that out. And it's become kind of like a mantra, because they truly believe that if they can figure out the secret of power, maybe they can rise up against the Damphir and actually free their people, free the humans from their control. Because the Damphir are they're just arrogant, old children. You know what I mean? Like,
Basically.
they're these immortal beings who are, just children, so freaking wanton in their desires and their design, they go after such frivolous and ephemeral things all the time, and they themselves hardly ever feel the repercussion of it, because they just have you, the humans, as their cannon fodder in their little minor wars all the time. And you remember that Agnes gave you a warning of how it can consume you, like it did your father, Hyperion. This secret of power can consume you, and it consumed him. And he thought he had it mastered, and he didn't. He fell, Yeah. And that was her biggest warning to you, was, don't do that. Don't, she, it's not like she's talking bad about your father, she always thought your father was a great man, a great warrior, a provider, but he did let this consume him.
Yeah.
And she doesn't want to see the same thing happen for you. And, you remember the farm home. It's been so long since you've been there, but looks like a little ranch stead, all wood and stain, and you got your cabinets and the different freeze-dried herbs and flowers hanging in the window, and the smell of spice and cooking and whatnot going on. It's cozy and it's inviting. And Zanye, you can even tell that, like, because this is completely a foreign aesthetic to her. Even she, you, without even really looking at her, you can just feel her energy kind of lax a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can tell she's never been in a place that feels so warm, so informal, as it were. she watches this and she looks and she says, "Is that your mother?"
People kind of chuckles. He's like, yeah, that's her. He kind of has that like that knowing grin, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, like
she don't know.
yeah, yeah. Don't be fooled. She's not a kindly
Yeah.
little old lady.
Yeah.
She just kind of, you watch as she just kind of walks around and kind of touches the scenery, and she goes, "I've never been in a place like this before. It's so different. There's a calm here. It's not like your other memory at all. That place was cold, almost, but there was a familiarity to it. This is different."
Yeah. Yuko just kind of chuckles. He's like, well, it was calm at this moment. He's like, we did have a couple of interesting things happen. Long story. He's kind of sighed. He said he doesn't want to go into like the whole missing for 5 years and coming back to like, you know, craziness.
A giant
But he's like,
crawling head. Yeah.
yeah, just the aberration of horror that we encountered, you know, all the good stuff. But he just kind of chuckles. He's like, yeah, it's nice, you know, it is what it is. It's home, I guess. He's like, the first place is my birthright, I guess. He's like, something great, right? And he's like, this is just what I made of. I made it out, you know. He's like, for better or for worse.
She goes, "You and you left this place?"
I mean, I wouldn't put it that way. Duty called. Things needed to be done.
She kind of
He kind of laughs. He's like, "You really don't even know why we're in Pangshu, do you?" He kind of like he's coming to the realization that like it's foreign to other people. Like his escape from Andis Dooley, and then like the whole group's rise to like prominence, really. But like with that comes like a certain, I don't want to say stigma,
I was
but
going
a
to say,
certain weight. You know what I mean? Like we got.
I
we
was
didn't
going to
just
say
get
a
the name.
responsibility.
Yeah. So, you know, it's kind of what he kind of imparts to. He's like, you know, yeah, I got stuff, but it's like to get here, I had help from a lot of people, and it's like sometimes people need that help returned. So when duty calls, he just kind of chuckles. He's like, again, it is what it is.
She sits there and listens to you, and as she's been listening to you explain this, she's like had her hand on the table on, you know, like, because you and your mother are sitting there talking. Let me paint this scene here. You and your mother are standing there talking, right? And you're at the table, and she's on the far end of the table away from you, and, you know, there's just the static imagery of your mother and you just standing there on the side there in front of the entrance. You know what I'm saying? And the entire time you've been saying this to her, she's been just staring down at the table, just kind of listening to your explanation. And suddenly her hand turns into a fist and she strikes down on the table. Boom! And she looks up at you and she says, and there's, for the first time in your life, you see like a type of emotion. You know, for the first time of knowing her, you see like an emotion that is, it's like her facade, her shell is kind of breaking a little bit. You know what I mean? There's a type of sadness there, but there's an anger in her eyes too. And despite herself, they're glossy as if she wants to cry, but she's not, you know?
Yeah.
And she's like, I have never in my entire life been in a place full of so much love and warmth. And, and you left it. You didn't have to pursue this power that consumed your father. And despite what your mother told you, that's exactly what you're doing. That explains why you wanted to know about the philosophy, our philosophy of strength, our philosophy of power, is it not? You thought I might have answers that your father never got?
I mean, maybe a clue or two. Who knew? He's like, you don't know until you ask, right?
She says, you are a fool.
That's the
She
first
goes,
time I called that.
She goes, there's no such thing as power. There's just will. And with that, she just turns away from you and goes and walks out your front door, just into your mind, all willy-nilly. And the second she does that, for like a split second there, you like watch as she opens up the door. And because you're jumping from like scene to scene, as it were, you know what I mean? You can't actually see what she's walking into, you know? But you do hear her like suddenly like gasp, you know?
Oh, that's not good.
She's like, oh, you Quill! And then boom, the door slams shut.
Well, let us go inspect.
Well, we would do that, except we're going to jump to Zoltan now.
That's not good.
LOL.
That's why DMs don't live long.
This is why DMs don't get to live long. Zoltan,
Uh-huh.
you and Chumi have left the Forgotten Palace and are going into the Forgotten City, back down in the Forgotten City. Now, mind you, even though I'm calling this the end of the first day of the Jingzhou, you know what I mean? Make no doubt about it. The Jingzhou is still in full swing, right? That doesn't mean like everybody went home, everybody went to their separate camps or whatever hotel they're staying at or whatever, you know what I mean, to go to sleep, whatever. I want you to think of this as more like Mardi Gras. You know what I mean? Like, people are still out partying, celebrating, throwing up firecrackers, kicking them back, smoking whatever. You know what I'm saying? They're people are still out having a good time, right? Because as stated before, you know, it's the greatest party in all the land. You know, most of the time these shoguns and these tribes and the different races and people and everything are feuding with one another, right? This is the one time at every 30 years that they get to drop all that and just get to have a good time, you know? And they take full advantage of it, you know? So they're out there just, you know, so so as you're walking through the city, it's not like you and her are just walking through some empty streets or anything. There's people out still having, you know, all kinds of fun as you and her are walking, and she's guiding you through the city as she begins to take you down into the more down. She cuts a corner and takes you through an alley, and the alleys here aren't like the alleyways in well, they're definitely not like the alleyways in the Drow City in the underworld, that's for sure, right? All cavernous and whatever. And they're definitely not like the alleyways of like the city of White Sword and all those where it's high walled structures and buildings and everything. These, you know, these are, even though these are alleyways, they're pretty open. You know, there's buildings on either side of you and whatnot, but I mean, they're open. You don't ever feel really enclosed in here, you know? And there's people in the alleyways. You got people in there drinking, playing games, making out, just doing their thing. Nobody is paying you any mind as she takes you down this alleyway towards a more shady part of the city. You know, where you could tell the level of criminality grows. You know, things begin to look a lot more shady. Deals being done, people looking. As long as you're not paying too much attention, nobody really has anything to say to you. But at one point in time, you see two people talking. It's a human and a Ibaxian, a goat man, as it were, goat folk. They're standing there talking, and they look like one's giving the other some win. You know, the clay money that they have, while the other one's handing him like a little baggie of something. And you just happen to look too long at them, and they both turn and look at you. And one of the Abaxian, the goat man, he's like, "You got a problem, pal?" And Chumi quickly like grabs you by the shoulder and then looks at him and shakes her head and waves her hand, and she goes, no, he just thought he knew you, but he don't know you. No, he don't know me, and I don't know him. No, we know. And she like turns you and she whispers to you. She's like mind your own business. She goes, don't make eye contact with anybody unless you plan on saying something to them, okay?
Hey, Catherine.
And she takes you into the darker side of the Forgotten City, as it is, until eventually you come to this little home. You know, and it's a wooden structure with that clay tiling roof. The front of it is wooden, but the door itself is made out of the squares of paper with the wood in a checker pattern, you know, and it just slides. And there's a light on inside there, as you can see. And Chumi goes, "This is the home of the crone." And she's like, and as she's telling you this, you hear a voice from the inside that sounds like a mature woman, but not an old woman. Like, you would expect this voice to be that of an old woman because of a name like a crone, right? But in fact, it just sounds like a more mature woman. And she says, "Who is at my door? And what do you seek?"
My name's Zoltan.
She says, "Zoltan." Says, "Are you the one that was asking questions?"
I am. Or I was, yes.
Said, the servant girl's lover. Says, "Well." She says, "Enter then."
Zoltan walks in slowly.
As you're beginning to walk in, Chumi like rushes past you quickly and then stops you for a minute and slides open the door for you and then bows very gracefully for you to enter.
I walk in. I just like how Chumi's doing this.
She looks at you and she says, "Shall I wait outside, my lord?"
Yes.
She says, "Very well then," and then slides the door shut behind you. Inside, you see a house. It's a one-bedroom house. It's just a square room, right? Like no other rooms or anything like that inside here. It's very sparsely decorated. Not a lot of decoration on the walls or anything, but there is in the center of the room there is one singular square table and then a bunch of pillows for sitting around it. And on that table there is a little, basically like not a decanter, but it's basically just like a little incense burner, you know? It looks like a little pot. Look like the shape of it looks like two symbols coming together and then like a base so it can sit and balance. And then the top symbol has a bunch of holes, not a bunch of holes, but slats cut in it for incense sticks to stick out and burn to make the room smell good. And then a teapot, a clay teapot, and some cups on a clay tray just sitting there at the head of that small table, with a woman sitting there she's a human woman with long dark black hair. She's young too, with a name like the Crone. Young human woman with long dark hair, and she's got like tattoos on her face and sticks through her hair to hold it up in a bun. And some revealing-ish clothing.
Some
Revealing-ish. As yeah, but she looks up at you and she says, "Zoltan, sit."
Yes, ma'am.
Says, "So you are the one asking about the Shujinja and Wujin, are you?"
Yes.
She pours herself a cup of tea and she says, "Tea?"
I'm good.
She goes, "Have some tea." And she pours a cup of tea for you and then hands you the cup. Says, "And what would you like to know about these Wujin and Shujinja? You are a foreigner to our lands, are you not? And yet, not so foreign." As she looks at you and she says, "My guess is that you have lineage from the underworld?"
You would be correct.
But not 100%. Interesting. Is it out of a morbid curiosity you want to know about our failed healers and sorcerers?
Yes, I wish to know the full extent of your culture.
Her eyes flash, right? She's got eyes that look like pearls of topaz, you know? And they kind of flash at you, and she says, "Now don't lie to me, Zoltan. I cannot give you correct answers if you do not tell me the truth. You don't want to just know for the sake of knowing. Why do you want to know about the Shujinja and the Wujin?"
Well, you see, my lover out there was, I wouldn't say possessed, but she does not remember anything from a said time. So I was wondering what type of magic that would be.
Well, anything can cause forgetfulness of the memory. Why would you believe it would be a Shujinja?
Because I saw a silver lining when I was investigating.
A silver lining. Or a Wujin, my bad. Why would you believe it would be a Wujin? She doesn't say Shujinja, she says Wujin. That's important. I clarify that. She says, "A silver lining. Describe this silver lining."
more like a cord controlling. It was a silver cord that was controlling them, but they had no conscience over what they were doing.
She said that's because that wasn't them. Just a mockery, as it were. Chumi can no more remember that happening to her than a fly can remember what it's like to gather honey as the bee does. If you understand what I'm saying to you.
Mhm.
What you saw was a projection. Somebody who is capable of casting out their essence in a projection. But what makes it dark is the fact that they can manipulate it and make it look as though they were somebody else. It'd be like if I took your soul, or if my soul, and I separated it from my body, but then I made it look like your soul. And that's what you saw with the silver cord, is the connection from essence to shell. Those skilled in this art can do multiple versions, almost split their essence into many essences and make them look however they want. But what makes it so dark is the fact that the shell can still act on its own, as if it's left a little, just enough of itself within inside the shell so that it may still function. This is definitely dark Wujin magic. And it's also dangerous. For if you can find a way to cut the cord, you can actually sever the ties of essence and body.
So you're saying if I cut said cord, they'll lose magic? Question mark?
They'll lose their essence. She goes, perhaps the word soul would be better for you. Although, there is no proof that one's essence and one's soul are the same thing. Much debate has been made upon that. Though I can't help but wonder if maybe it doesn't take a small portion of your soul to even do this. And that's why it's such a considered so taboo amongst our people. But yes, the key word that you use there is if you can cut that cord. It's not as simple as just walking up with, say, a weapon, a bladed weapon, a sword or an axe, and chopping at that cord. It is much less, it's much less tangible than So I hear what you're saying is that you ran into a Wujin, which isn't a common occurrence. Not these days, anyways. And she says that almost bitterly. She says that you ran into a Wujin who projected an image of your little servant out there, Chu-Mi. And another, perhaps?
Yes.
Well, did you happen to see who it was?
Did I happen to see what the second person they were projecting, or who was projecting?
The projectionist.
Hmm. Oh no, something does not remember. I believe I did because I was suspecting it was a rope guy.
Human,
Uh,
Ibaxian, Kuatua.
Dragon Man.
Ha!
Dragon.
The Dragoon. They won't take kindly to you calling them Dragon Men.
The Dragoon. My
The-
bad.
The Dragoon. Ah. And so it begins.
What do you mean by that?
When this continent was still in its infancy, people of all races and cultures spread out across the world. They sailed and explored. It is known as the Age of Discovery.
Mhm.
And they discovered a lot. Maybe more than they're willing to admit, though I've never been. I have never left the Forgotten City.
If
This-
you don't mind me
What's that?
pardoning in your sentence, if you've never left, then how did you become of such power?
She says, "What do you mean by power?"
Well, people that I've spoken to about you say that you're the one in charge.
And when you say that, she kind of chuckles. Her laugh is, it's sort of insulting, but sexy at the same time.
Oh lord, not one of those. She's gonna make me act up. Zoltan's
She-
gonna have a harem. Zoltan's gonna have.
she's kind of like, she goes, "In charge of what, per se?"
The dark arts or the taboo, if one would say.
Oh, I see. I'm some queen of the underworld, as it were. No offense.
None taken.
There are many different kinds of underworld. I am not speaking of yours. The underworld I'm mentioning here is more like the underbelly of a society. Imagine society is a golden calf. So large that it cannot be sheltered from the weather. But because it's so beautiful, you try to keep it clean. Well, however, there's only so much you can do. And so there's one spot, one section that keeps getting missed. And it just happens to be on the underbelly. That is what they're saying I am the queen of. In charge of, as it. I am in charge of the underbelly of society. That one spot that is never clean. No. There is a lot of misconception about how deep my ties run. I just have a lot of knowledge. And what ties I do have, well, it's best you don't concern yourself with the dealings of what is considered scary people. But no, I have never left the Forgotten City. Nor does anything sinister just hearken to my beck and call. So shall we continue then?
We shall.
So when everything got discovered, naturally, is such the way of all peoples and all cultures and all races. Everybody wanted to settle where they were, and they wanted it to be theirs. Everybody wants a piece of the pie. The problem is sometimes the pie just isn't big enough for everybody to have a fair piece. This ushered in the age of many wars. Because many wars, big and small, most of them so small that not even the record books, the history books, have records of them ever happening, took place and the lands were settled. In Pang Shun's infancy rose the Shujinja and the Wujin. It is said that they were approached by a dark god, the god of decay, as it were, Bolda. He taught them things. And this is one of the things he taught them. How to control their essence and use it. And for a long time, they ruled these lands. This was before there was such a thing as shogunates, even. The Wujin ruled as dark priests to this god over all the races and cultures and people. And the Shujinja, or the Shujinja did this, and the Wujin were their foot soldiers, as it were, carrying out their dark acts. Then rose the shaman, Sohei, the great god of balance, as it were. He rose to prominence, and Magnus, and he taught the Sohei and the shaman, well, what would be essentially considered good magic, and they eventually drove out the Wujin and the Shujinja. Then the shogunates rose, and we're pretty much at where we're at now with that. But everybody respects the shaman, everybody respects the Sohei. Though many other gods have come into our since, gods like Cass, the warrior god, and this and that, it has always been known that Magnus is a god of order, and he keeps this god of chaos, this god of decay, at bay. Now the Wujin, or the Shujinja, have done a lot to get the stigma off their name, since their abilities really just come from the worship of a god, and that whether that god be for good or ill will grant them ability. And so the Shujinja have managed to build back their name, though they're not very common in these lands. But the Wujin, however, the Wujin are Wujin. I would think that if you're dealing with a Wujin, there is a strong possibility that there is a Shujinja pulling their strings somewhere. The question is who is helping? Might I ask why you are investigating these things? Again, you can just tell me no, but don't lie to me, Zoltan. don't ever lie to me.
I'm sorry to say, but it is a private matter to me and my party.
When after you say that, her personality like lightens up again. She says, "Ah, I see. Well then, I suppose this time is free. But I don't think this is the last I've seen of you. The next time, I will require something."
Okay.
Her eyes just kind of flash again, and she goes, "All right. Well, now you know what you're dealing with. A Wujin and perhaps a Shujinja. But it could just be a rogue Wujin. She says, "Before you go," and she pulls out a stone, right? It looks like a crystal, but it's more like cut like a gem than just like a straight up, like how a crystal would look. You know how everybody imagines a crystal looks, right? It's always elongated and kind of pointy at the ends and everything, you know? This crystal is more cut, more like a gem. It's, you know, more, what's the word I'm looking for? More square, you know? And she says, "This will help you." And she holds it out for you. Says, "If you're ever curious about whether or not you're dealing with the Shujinja or not, this will point it out to you. You just hold it up to your eye and look at the person you were trying to identify. It'll show you their aura. Shujinja are incredibly clever. They know how to mask certain abilities about themselves, even their intention. But this will for sure show you their aura. And this you can have for free." And she holds it out for you to take. Did I cut out?
No, I heard you.
Oh, okay.
I was
Yeah, I heard you too.
my bad, G. No, I said I go to grab it slowly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
As soon as it's in your hand, she just lets it go. She says, "Don't be worried. I don't have any intention of..." She says, "Don't be worried. I have no intention of hurting you." She says, that I'm just giving to you for free." She says, "Like I said, I have a feeling you're going to need my help again. When you do, then I'll require something of you. This was just all information and one crystal. That means nothing. I have a feeling the next thing you need of me will be a bigger task. And a bigger task requires bigger payment. You understand?"
I do.
She says, "Good. Now finish your tea."
Damn, I tried getting out of it. Zoltan finishes his tea.
It's good. Just got a hint of lavender in it and
Then I fall over dead.
No, it's just got a hint of lavender and what's that other stuff? Well, it doesn't matter. It's got a hint of lavender in it. It tastes like sort of like a rose smells. And yeah. And you set the cup down. Go ahead and roll a spot for me though, real fast.
I don't think I will. Not today.
Good lord. I posted that image to give you an idea in the Discord.
What are you looking at?
But then now I just now happen to look up and I'm like, what the crap?
Don't mind that. My brother made a comment about the one above that one. The one with the monster and the two girls, and I had to post something more cursed.
Yeah. It's all cursed. That's for sure. It's the hunk of burning curse right there. Anyways.
Whoops.
Okay. So you drink your tea. It's good, you know what I mean? And then as you're putting the teacup down, you happen to look down into it and you just happen to notice that there's this like what looks like leaves that have been soaked in the tea at the bottom of it, and they just happen to be making like a weird pattern as you set down the teacup.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. That's all.
Okay.
Nothing happens to you. You don't get sick. Nothing. You know what I mean?
Alright.
She says, "Well, if there's nothing else, Sultan, leave me to my thoughts." As she reaches forward and takes the teacup from you and happens to she just glances down at it but doesn't make like a thing out of it, you know? She just glances inside the cup and sets it down off to the side.
Zoltan takes the gem and puts it up to his eye and looks at it real quick. Zoltan's curious.
Your eye falls out. No. Your eye explodes! No. You put the gem up to your eye and you look at her and she just kind of laughs and she goes, because what you see, she's right. You can see auras, but the auras aren't like detecting magic or anything like that, right? All it is just you can see like a slight color, like a variation of a color coming off of her, almost like an outline of something, right? And hers just happens to be the same sort of color as her eyes. It's just kind of like a faint outline of topaz around her, you know? Almost, and it's so faint. Like, that's the thing about the auras that it reads, is that it's just a faint outline of color. It's nothing major per se, right? And it's nothing to be, it doesn't alarm you in any way, shape, or form. But as you're doing this, she just kind of giggles that insulting, sexy laugh again, and she says, "Satisfied now?"
Zoltan gets a grin on his face and said, "Yeah."
Says, "Well, then we will see you next time."
We'll see you next time. Zoltan bows and then leaves.
As you are heading to the door, it slides open for you again, as if Chumi was just waiting. And you step out, and she shuts the door, and you two begin to walk your way back to the Forbidden Palace. Shumi just kind of, walking alongside you, and she says, she didn't have you sleep with her, did she?
No.
She kind of, you hear like a sigh of relief. She goes, oh, good. Okay. She's like, she's quite aggressive in the way she looks. That's all. And you guys make your way back to the Forbidden Palace. And I think that's actually where I'm going to call it for tonight, y'all.
Word.
I think this is a good spot to put a pin in all of it.
Put a pin.
Put a pin in it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, next session, Android and all them Android, Agaragis, and Zoltan can start the next day, and we can continue Uquill's journey, who's already technically in the next day.
Oh, joy.
So, let me do my thing here. I want to thank everybody for joining us, the audience out there, who, we seem to have a pretty steady audience of folks who like to listen to the show, to the session. So I really appreciate you, and to any newcomers, I appreciate you as well. If you like what I do here and you're new to the channel, or you've been here before, go ahead and leave us a like, share, and if you're new and you're feeling a type of way, go ahead and subscribe. Don't forget to sign the guest book, that's what I call my comment section down below. Just telling us how you like it, if you're feeling so inclined. That's about all I got. Thank you to them old school gamers here. Thank you all for joining me again for another session. You guys, obviously you put up with a lot from me as a DM. I don't know if that's become apparent or not, but obviously you guys put up with a lot. But I always have fun, so and that's what matters. And that's what's important, is that the DM. No, but yeah. Love you guys, and y'all come back now. Stay golden. Say bye, everybody.
Deuces.
Bye bye.
Bye.